This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
News is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, we saw you on television. I say, oh yes, on what? On GB News. Hello, are you the famous Sue?
The whole crew hid me here now. We came to celebrate.
It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GBNews family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again. You just tuned in. Where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. For the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly and political commentator Jonathan Liss. Coming up in my niggle.
We've got policy making it clear that anti-white racism is acceptable.
As Reform UK's Suella Braverman says that Britain is a two-tier state against white people, I investigate the party's latest policy to put migrants to the back of the housing queue. Then, in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, should foreign nationals be entitled to council housing? The poll is live on gbnews.com. Please head over, cast your vote. Coming up in the Great British Debate, I'm also asking, should we cut welfare to fund defence? Dramatic footage as British forces seize a Russian Shadow Fleet tanker in the English Channel for the first time. Shadow Defence Secretary James Cartledge says that we need more investment.
Everyone knows that 0.08% is nothing like enough, and we know that John Healey himself, the previous Defence Secretary, thought that that's why he resigned. The threat is much greater, so we need to increase defence spending to 3%, and we think a big part of that has got to come from cutting welfare.
But Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy promised Labour will keep the country safe.
We've overseen the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. And when we first came into government, within weeks, we'd commissioned a strategic defence review.
So coming up in the interview, I'll be speaking to outspoken former Tory MP turned author Louise Mensch. And as the internet is being blamed for riots in Belfast, Louise has long been campaigning for social media blackouts in times of crisis. Louise, no, we're going to have to talk about this. Then in another Great British Debate, I'm asking, is Donald Trump too old to be president? He turns 80 today. Happy birthday, Donald. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Bethany Alfie.
Good afternoon. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 3:02. British armed forces have intercepted and seized a Russian oil tanker in the English Channel. Sir Keir Starmer confirmed Royal Marine Commandos and specially trained officers boarded the vessel, supported by the RAF, in the early hours of this morning. It will now be held and monitored off the south coast of England. Russia has been operating a shadow fleet of tankers to evade international sanctions imposed on its oil exports since it started the war with Ukraine. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has thanked the UK for intercepting the vessel. The new Defence Secretary says he's determined to get the armed forces the funding they need after his predecessor quit over the government's military spending plans. In his first interview since his promotion, Dan Jarvis told The Telegraph the government must meet the moment on defence spending. Meanwhile, the Conservatives have urged Labour to cut welfare spending and redirect the savings to defence. The Shadow Defence Secretary James Cartledge spoke to GB News this morning.
One knows that 0.08% is nothing like enough, and we know that John Healey himself, the previous Defence Secretary, thought that that's why he resigned. The threat is much greater, so we need to increase defence spending to 3%, and we think a big part of that has got to come from cutting welfare.
But Labour's Lisa Nandy defended her party's track record.
We've overseen the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. And when we first came into government, within weeks, we'd commissioned a strategic defence review.
President Donald Trump has said a peace deal between the US and Iran will be signed today to end the fighting and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian officials have told Reuters that Tehran has agreed not to produce or acquire any nuclear weapons under the draft deal, but the Foreign Ministry says they're cautious about commenting on when the agreement will be signed. Police have arrested 6 activists after a pro-Palestine rally outside a synagogue in North London. Edgware United Synagogue have organised a counter-protest against what they've described as harassment and bullying against the Jewish community. Footage on social media shows police detaining protesters after some demonstrators from either side clashed. Commander Adam Solenki says there's a distinction between protesting in central London and in the heart of communities, adding that the potential to cause intimidation is greater. He says officers will use the full range of powers to avoid serious disruption. Nigel Farage has pledged to evict foreign nationals from council housing. Under the Reform leader's plans, migrants living in social housing would be given 3 months to find private accommodation or face being deported. Instead, veterans and long-term local residents will be given priority, along with domestic abuse survivors and care leavers. And it's Donald Trump's birthday today. The US president turns 80 years old and he's celebrating by staging a night of cage fighting on the South Lawn. The event is also part of celebrations marking the 250th anniversary of US independence. Those are your latest headlines. I'll have more in half an hour.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. It's just gone 6 minutes after 3 o'clock. Coming up, Nigel Farage is proposing a major shake-up of social housing rules, saying that British veterans and local residents should be moved to the front of the queue. Then in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should foreign nationals be entitled to council housing? Dramatic footage as British forces board a Russian shadow fleet tanker in the English Channel, even if our defence is underfunded. So in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should we cut welfare to fund defence? And in World View, we'll cross live to the United States to speak to the host of the Politics People podcast, Paul Dudridge, as Donald Trump turns 80 today and is apparently set to sign a peace deal with Iran. Right, that is all coming up. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments at gbnews.com/yoursay. All right, let's start with dramatic events in the English Channel, where British armed forces intercepted a Russian shadow fleet vessel in the early hours of this morning. Royal Marine Commandos and specially trained law enforcement officers from the National Crime Agency boarded a sanctioned oil tanker during a 6-hour operation. Here's what Lieutenant Colonel Tom Quinn, who's the commanding officer of 42 Commando in Royal Marines, said at a short time ago.
Evading sanctions to fund an illegal war in Ukraine will be countered with decisive action, and that's what we've done on this occasion. We didn't meet any resistance from the crew. Indeed, they were really compliant and supportive of our actions and what we needed to get done once we took control of the vessel.
Well, this morning, developments in the Channel came under the new Defence Secretary, said he is determined to get the armed forces the funding they need. Right, well, I'm joined by retired Navy Commander Tom Sharp, OBE. Tom, our armed forces are in a bit of a state, aren't they? And it's not surprising that anybody watching us now from another country would think, oh, this is quite a good time to attack the UK.
Yes, and I think much of what happened overnight last night is in response to that. I mean, it is the right answer. Reference the Dark Sea Fleet. We should have been boarding these ships months ago. We said we were going to board them months ago, and since then 200 have been passed, and we've done nothing. So we've ended up at the right answer. But if you look at the workings out, if you look at how we've ended up at the right answer, it looks pretty uncomfortable because it looks like a well-timed pitch to try and show everyone that our armed forces are fine when we know from the events of last week they very much are not.
I mean, we look pathetic, to be honest, and I think that's very tragic given the United Kingdom, the Empire, all of the things that we did in terms of shipbuilding, Viners steel, all the industrial areas that we had in this country that really were the force that powered us, which meant that in terms of even coal mining, we were more immune to energy shocks because we had our own source back at home. What do you think needs to happen right now?
Yeah, we've left everything with we've made ourselves we've outsourced an awful lot of our energy, as you say, which makes us very dependent and vulnerable. You know, and I think the Iran shocks are still we're still to feel the worst of that. So we've got to turn a corner, and I think it's very frustrating how slow this government has been to do that. They've been in for over 2 years. They did a defence review that took a year. I don't know why that took a year, and then it's taken a year to cost that defence review, or as we now know, to not cost it. And it descended into farce at the last minute with ministers resigning. So the first thing we've got to do is get ourselves organised, and then we've got to work out what we want to achieve as a country and prioritise money accordingly. We can't allow this any longer to become a hair-pulling contest between different departments of state. So the Prime Minister has to lead this, and his direction is, you know, every time he opens his mouth, he says that defence and security are his first priorities. He now needs to back that up. And then once that's in place, once the leadership and the cascade is in place, we then need a bit of a root and branch sort of resort of the way we do our defence business. It's very old, it's very sticky, it's very bound in culture and change aversion. We've got to rip up the rule book and start again and move much, much faster to modernise and expand. If you were in charge, where would you take money from, or what would you do to try and fund defence? Look, we're $1 trillion economy. I'm not going to list the area because this very quickly descends into the sort of the Treasury argument. You're taking it from schools and hospitals. That is a very simplistic and entirely unhelpful way to characterise this argument. The fact of the matter is we're talking about percentages of a GDP. We're talking about going from 2.3 to 2.6 to 3.5. I mean, by definition, they are a small fraction of the whole. So we have to find a way to take those from, and there are thousands of ways. That's why I'm not going to list any, because there are thousands of ways this could be done, most of which just involve efficiencies. They don't even have to involve taking money from other people. It's just about improving the systems by which we do all this. And defence has a role to play here too, because it is grossly inefficient. It is a mini NHS in terms of wastefulness. So there's many angles here, but but if we don't get it right, if we're still quibbling over 0.5% of GDP, then the risk to us goes up. And whether you believe there's a threat or not, I believe there is, and it goes up because you look weak. And then if it does spill over into kinetic warfare, you're very quickly at levels of a percentage of GDP that make the other argument look completely irrelevant. You're up to 30%. So I think we need to find the efficiencies to get us where we need to be today under a clear set of priorities led by the Prime Minister. Well, I think, to be honest, I would actually agree with you. My argument isn't that. That was just my question as to where you take the money from. But I agree. I think they need to be more efficient. But I do also think that they are spending way too much on welfare. I mean, you can't be spending more on welfare than the money you're taking in. It doesn't make any sense. So that would be the first thing I would cut, and I would put that saving immediately into defence, because I would cut the welfare bill with an absolute sledgehammer. I think it needs to be reduced. All right, well, how soon do you think
If, for example, they say, right, we're going to spend more money in defence, how soon do you think they can start showing a difference? Because when you hear them saying they're going to spend more money, they then say, oh, by the end of the Parliament, or by 2030, when they probably won't be in power, or by another measure when I have no control over it, so I can just say it now, and if it doesn't happen, it's not my fault.
I think the rot is set deep, and it's been entrained for so long that this is, even if we magicked our way to 4 or 5% of GDP today on defence, this is going to take a while to turn the corner, because we look at the ships and the submarines and the aircraft and how thin they've become. They are literally the tip of the spear. The underpinnings, the logistics underpinnings, the armaments directive, the shipbuilding, the nuclear capabilities have all withered. They all need to be built up at the same time. And if you just take the example of, let's say, nuclear welders, the people who are qualified to weld on nuclear reactors, you can't just magic these people up, and no amount of money suddenly brings that back. You have to train it, you have to build it, you have to build the academies. So there's an entire, and it's a whole ship sport. It's not just defence. When you're talking about UK resilience, this is much wider than ships and submarines. We've got to really kind of go broader, and it needs full government buy-in. And then it will take time. Now, there are quick wins. Autonomy is definitely one. AI is definitely one. We've got to be very careful we don't drive to autonomy too fast because we think it's cheaper, because it probably isn't. By the time you've made it good enough and secure enough, it probably isn't. And I mean, look, just to bring back to the boarding example last night, tell me what part of that we could have done autonomously. Eventually you need determined men and women with rifles taking a piece of real estate, and autonomy will not change that. So yes, it's a quick win, and we need to get much better at using our SMEs in this country. Some of them are brilliant, but are going out of business or going elsewhere because the framework is so poor. So that's a quick win, but a lot of it is a really slow build, and it's going to take years.
Well, it will be slow, but they need to start somewhere, and I'd suggest to the government they start now. Tom Sharp, OBE, thank you very much. He's a retired Navy commander. All right, well, let's move on. 15 minutes after 3 o'clock, and moving on to Nigel Farage, who's announced that he would evict foreign nationals from council housing. Under Reform UK's leaders' plans, the migrants will be given 3 months to find private accommodation or face being deported. So by that, he means foreign nationals. Instead, veterans and long-term local residents will be given priority, along with domestic abuse survivors and care leavers. We're joined by former Immigration Minister Kevin Foster to talk through this idea. How realistic is this? Can it really be achieved?
Well, it's certainly possible to start dealing with some of the abuses of social housing. It's been welcome to see that this week Southwark Council has finally got rid of the First Lady of Sierra Leone's council house. So it's certainly possible for reform to make some big changes in this space. I think where the issue comes will be what sort of exemptions, what sort of groups people wouldn't be so comfortable seeing it applied to. So, for example, few people would argue that those who came here as part of the Windrush generation, who are not British citizens, who should be subjected to this type of treatment potentially near the end of their lives, given how long you will have been in the UK if you are in that cohort. So there are certainly debates to be had about social housing. There's certainly a need to look at more enforcement, particularly in places like London, that people are taking up social housing only if they really need to. But it does link to a point that many people see as a general point of fairness, that if you are a foreign national and you've come to the UK, you should really be able to support yourself, not be looking to use social housing.
Very good point, and I can't think of a country that would allow that. Most places, if you're going to go and reside in that country, you need to prove that you can actually afford to pay for yourself. And it's quite unfair for the people who actually are citizens of that country to be put behind you for accommodation. I think most people would find that respectful and would think that was perfectly fair. But there will be a cohort of people that say, that's terrible. As I suspect, there will be exemptions made for people from the Windrush and things like that. I'm sure in Nigel's plan, he would have thought about that.
Yeah, I suspect they will have. Actually, one of the problems for Nigel's plan is announcing things like this midway through a parliament that you might do after a general election in a couple of years' time, is a lot of people don't just sit there and say, oh, well, that's nice. If we note at the Home Office figures last year showed a record number of applications for British citizenship. Well, of course, if people are settled here, they could potentially look to become British citizens to avoid this. And that would be one hole in some of Reform's plans on some of these areas, is if people convert to be British citizens, well, of course, they're no longer foreign nationals. So you wouldn't be able to apply this type of policy to them. But there is a debate, and it links in more widely, actually, to, obviously people's frustration seeing people arriving in small boats, going to hotels. A lot of the government push to get people about hotels is putting them into dispersed accommodation, which is in the private sector, by the way. So some of the rentals that people will be trying to do in the private sector are potentially being used by the Home Office. And then if they're granted, the Home Office, of course, looks to get them out of its accommodation, and that means potentially falling into social housing. So there's a lot of issues that come together in what's quite an emotive one, and the wider pressures in our housing market. I think the Southwark one was the staggering example. It's something like 18,000 people on their housing list, and someone who lives in a presidential palace had one. So there is a lot of issues that come to the fore here, along with wider debates about how our housing market works, how we make it fair, and how we ensure that actually a lot of people who do need to do key jobs like nursing and other areas can actually afford to live anywhere near to the place where they work. Because there'll be a lot of people listening to this who will think, well, I pass lots of social housing, as I commute into a job in London, having to live in Essex, because that's about the only place, the nearest place I could actually get to a house that I could actually afford to live on anything like a reasonable salary.
But most people have that. Like, I can't afford to live in Notting Hill, for example, or some of those really expensive places. So I move further out in a place that I can afford. I think that's just... Yeah, I think people, the expectation that you should have to be able to have a house near where it is that you work, I think is for the birds, really.
Although, Nana, the irony is, if you qualified for you're sat in the Paddington studio, if you qualified for Westminster's social housing, you could potentially be housed fairly close to where the studios are. So again, there is a real issue of fairness that's building up. That if you're something like Central London, if you're very wealthy, if you're really wealthy, of course you can, go and buy one of those nice places just around the corner. But if at the other end you can't afford it at all, you could potentially get social housing. Yet a lot of people in the middle who only a generation ago, a nurse would have been buying a place in somewhere like Westbourne Terrace, which people might know is is part of Paddington. It's close to St Mary's Hospital there. Whereas now, that would be a stockbroker's property to try and buy that type of flat. So this does, and I can see why Nigel's bringing this up, is it does tap into a lot of people's dissatisfaction with how the system seems to work for those who are either the very wealthiest or conversely, the very poorest, or who qualify via things like refugee status. But for a lot of people working, day-to-day job, who got up this morning, doing overtime today, couldn't hope of living somewhere close to where they work.
Yeah, and that's the majority, really, as far as I see. Kevin Foster, thank you very much. He's a former immigration minister. All right, so on Nigel Farage's deportation plans, the government spokesperson said illegal migrants, asylum seekers and migrants on student or work visas are not eligible for social housing. And nearly 9 in 10 social homes, go to UK nationals, and most councils have tough local connection rules in place to ensure housing goes to people who need it most, which means that 1 in 10 go to foreign nationals, which... that's what he's saying, and I think that's fair enough. Right, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. Still to come in my niggle. As Nigel Farage says, Britain is a two-tier state against white people. I investigate the party's latest policy to put migrants to the back of the housing queue. But next, in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should foreign nationals be entitled to council housing? This is GB News, Britain's #1 news channel, and we're 5 years old.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Good afternoon and welcome to GB News, Britain's #1 news channel. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio, 25 minutes after 3 o'clock. Remember, you can stream us live on YouTube or download that GB News app. It is completely free. Right now, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, should foreign nationals be entitled to council housing? Nigel Farage has vowed to evict migrants from council housing and deport those who fail to move into private accommodation within 3 months if Reform UK wins power. Now, the party leader says that this is so that veterans and long-term residents are prioritised for social housing alongside domestic abuse survivors and care leavers. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should foreign nationals be entitled to council housing? Well, joining me now is broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly and political commentator Jonathan Liss. All right, I'm going to start with you, Jonathan.
No, I don't think that people should be evicted from their homes, still less deported if they fail to do so, which is also the reform policy, which even Robert Jenrick thought was too extreme, so he denied that was a policy, and then Zia Yusuf corrects him on Twitter shortly afterwards. So clearly not even Reform fully understands what this policy is. I think in general that people already have, extremely high bars in order to claim council housing. The government points out that 9 in 10 people who claim for council housing are not, in fact, foreign nationals.
So 1 in 10 are. So that would be 10, and there's a lot of houses that could be cleared away for veterans.
But I mean,
people like that.
I don't. In general, Nana, I don't support playing people off against each other.
It's not.
The answer is that we should be building a lot more council housing. The forgotten story in Britain's housing over the last 40 years, is that because of the right to buy scheme pioneered by Margaret Thatcher, which a lot of people will tell you that they benefited from, and I'm not denying they benefited from. Although the people who benefited the most, of course, are the people who then became landlords off the benefits, and then sort of made charging other people.
But I thought you'd be happy if people with a council house were able to buy the house and then sell it and make money, because they are people who are probably not as privileged, so that's why they were in a council house. So wouldn't you say that Margaret Thatcher opening the door to people who are less well off to be able to own their council home and then sell it helps with wealth distribution to those who are poorer?
She opened the door for more landlordism. That's the point.
Well, either way, people who were less well off were able to purchase their own council house with really nice purchasing rules so that they could move up in the housing ladder and become landlords or sell their property.
The argument is that the point I'm making is that only one generation was able to do that because a lot of those people then became landlords, and guess what? The government never replaced the housing stock that they allowed to be sold off. That is the problem. So what I'm saying is that rather than playing
with people becoming landlords,
rather than playing a game of who can we divide next, which parts of British society can we play off against each other, let's play off the veterans against the foreign-born people because it plays well, in the right-wing press or whatever, and it's good for reforms base. That is a deeply cynical politics. What we should be doing, and what governments of all colours should have been doing for the last 40 years, and they haven't been doing, is building new council stock to replace that housing so more people can actually get onto, live in houses for a start, and then ultimately maybe own their own property.
But also, in the meantime, take people out of those houses if they're not British citizens, I would have thought. Danny Kelly.
I read Nigel Farage's essay. It was very interesting, and without a doubt, although Nigel Farage has dismissed this, he's denying that it's got anything to do with Restore breathing down his neck, and I don't believe that. I think, he's a politician, and politicians have to react to threats, political threats. So I think he's now having to sort of rein in the people who are losing faith with reform and potentially going over to Rupert Lowe's Restore. Because it is an extreme policy, isn't it? Whether you agree with it or whether you disagree with it, to potentially evict somebody if they can't find... And do you know how hard it is to find a private flat or a house, a dwelling nowadays?
Yes.
And he's given you 3 months to do it.
Well, what about...
Now, I don't disagree with the actual premise behind it, but I think it's rather inhumane. And
so what about the British people who cannot get onto the housing ladder, who are put behind these people? Because that, to me, is the inhumane thing. You live in this country. You're entitled to the benefits of this country because you are a British citizen.
All your life.
You may not have paid in, but you are a British citizen.
I get that.
So why on earth would you go behind somebody who's just come here, rocked up, and get benefits?
I agree with everything you said, but there is also a bit of humanity with having... No. 3 months, I don't believe, is a long enough time to, if you like, be evicted from a council dwelling and find a private dwelling within 3 months. There are a shortage of houses. If you put a house on the market for rent, it gets snapped up like that.
Yeah, but you'll know in advance, right, that if you're coming to this country as a foreign national, you would know in advance.
So it's a preemptive thing.
So you would already know that you've got 3 months, which is very generous from any government in any country, that will allow you to have social housing for 3 months to help you settle. But within that time, you must also look for a firm private rented accommodation. I think that's really generous. I can't think of a country that would do that for you, give you discounted housing to help you and then ask you to move aside afterwards.
That's forewarning people who are yet to come here. There are hundreds of thousands of people who are living in these dwellings. I agree with the sentiment...
They're being forewarned now.
They're now being threatened with deportation.
Yeah, so there's two different groups of people. You just mentioned about people coming to this country.
Absolutely.
Right, we'll warn them, but for the hundreds of thousands or millions of people already in the council dwellings, if Reform gets to power, they're going to give them 3 months, they're going to evict, and then 3 months. I think that's slightly inhumane.
No,
but I do agree with
in addition to...
I agree with the premise. I agree with the premise that British people should be at the front of the queue.
In addition to getting rid of indefinite leave to remain.
I don't have the answer. Building more houses isn't the answer either, I don't think, because success... Well, Labour, that was one of the big things, the big manifesto pledges from Labour. Build however many... Jonathan probably has the exact number. I think it's 1.5 million or something. Do you realise how long it takes to build 1.5 million houses?
Well, I don't think they did.
Who pays for those houses?
Realise that, did they?
Who paid? The basics of Farage's essay is that there are too many people in this country. I'm just moving away slightly from the question, if you don't mind. Too many people in this country, and there are too many people being put to the front of the queue because they're not white Brits. Now, that was... if you read the article, it's all about...
Well, he actually uses the word white. He says away from the guidelines in place for housing associations have led to a redistribution of housing stock away from the white British populations, quote unquote, who originally inhabited areas. That, for me, is a dog whistle. Why are we talking about white? You're talking about foreign nationals, right? Either if you're having a conversation about foreign nationals, it shouldn't be a question about what colour skin you have.
What has he said that isn't true? Like, I hear you. You can take that angle. But what has he said that isn't true? It is true, what he's saying, that it has taken the houses away from the indigenous white...
Well, first of all,
Hold on. It is true. So that's not a lie. So I don't take offence at that.
Well, I find it profoundly offensive that you're making it a racial issue when, well, if you want to complain about brown people or black people getting ahead of white people, then say it with your full chest.
But what is the point?
But don't make these insinuations.
No, but he's telling the truth, right? So if telling the truth might be uncomfortable because it is true.
But it makes it sound like a social engineering.
Well,
right?
you can hear that, and that's fine. But I get his point. I understand the point he's making. If you are not a British citizen, you shouldn't be entitled to.
Okay, fine, but you're talking about. But Nana, you're talking about citizens, and we can have a discussion about citizens. But he's using the word white. Why has he chosen to use that word? Because he wants to speak to a very specific kind of demographic who he thinks will respond to that.
All right, well, let's see.
And that for me is deeply cynical and dangerous.
Let's see what you think at home. GBNews.com/you'll say. Did he need to use that word, or is he simply telling the truth as to the situation and how it stood years and decades ago? You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. Still to come in my niggle. As Nigel Farage says, Britain is a two-tier state against white people. Again, he's used it again. This is what he feels, and he's used the word. Are you complaining about that? No. I investigate the party's latest policy to put migrants to the back of the housing queue. But next, in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should we cut welfare to fund defence? But first, your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsie.
Good afternoon. The headlines from the GB newsroom. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has praised Sir Keir Starmer after UK armed forces intercepted a Russian Shadow Fleet oil tanker in the English Channel in the early hours of this morning. The new Defence Secretary says he's determined to get the armed forces the funding they need after his predecessor quit over the government's military spending plans. Meanwhile, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch is calling the Prime Minister to cut welfare spending and redirect the savings to defence. President Donald Trump says a peace deal to end the war between the US and Iran will be signed today. Iran's foreign ministry, though, says Tehran is cautious in commenting on the signing date. And police have arrested 6 activists after pro-Palestine rallies have taken place outside a synagogue in North London. Those are your latest headlines. I'll have more for you at 4 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead, it's going to be a rather cool, fresh night ahead for many. A different story in the southwest, though, quite a warm night to come. And that leads us into a dry, settled day on Monday. Very similar conditions to what we've had this afternoon, all thanks to a ridge of high pressure stretching across the country. Far fewer isobars on the chart as well, so much lighter winds for many of us. Plenty of late evening sunshine to finish off the day. Clear skies across Scotland, northern and eastern parts of England, so turning much cooler here overnight, particularly across Scotland. Some temperatures here not pushing much below the mid to low single figures, so feeling much cooler by Monday morning. But it's a very different story across southern parts of Wales, southwest England. A warm night to come, temperatures not dropping much past the mid single figures. So a warm start here to start off the day, but actually plenty of bright, if not sunny spells. We do have this stretch of cloud across parts of Wales, central and southeast England. This could produce some showers. We may even hear the odd rumble of thunder. Quite a fine start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, and also across Scotland. But like I say, quite a chilly start. But actually through Monday, many of us will see another dry, settled day with some sunny spells. We do just have to keep an eye on these showers as they drift their way northeastwards. Once again, the odd spark of lightning associated with those. And then later into the day across the northwest, clouding over here. Once again, the odd shower or two expected. But where we see the brighter weather in the light winds, once again, it will be feeling warm. Highs reaching into the mid-single figures across much of England and Wales. They're a little bit fresher across some northeastern coasts and eastern areas of Scotland. Now, through the course of the night, this band of thicker cloud will start to produce some more outbreaks of rain as it drifts its way northeastwards, a few showers starting to push into the west. And this is a very similar pattern to what we'll see next week, some showers and cloud at times, but actually temperatures increasing day by day, turning rather warm by the end of the week.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
38 minutes after 3 o'clock. Welcome to GB News, Britain's #1 news channel. Oh, I don't get tired of ever saying that. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And it's time for the next Great British Debate of this hour. And I'm asking, should we cut welfare to fund defence? Now, new Defence Secretary Dan Jarvis has said that he is determined to get the armed forces the funding that they need after his predecessor quit over Labour's military spending plans. Earlier, GB News spoke to Shadow Defence Secretary James Cartledge, who said more needs to be done.
Everyone knows that 0.08% is nothing like enough, and we know that John Healey himself, the previous Defence Secretary, thought that that's why he resigned. The threat is much greater, so we need to increase defence spending to 3%, and we think a big part of that has got to come from cutting welfare.
Yes, and that is right, but I must point out to you, James, that the Tories were in power for 14 years before anybody from the Labour side says it, and they literally stripped the defence forces, and we've got practically nothing left. Anyway, in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, should we cut welfare to fund defence? Well, joining me now is broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly and political commentator Jonathan Liss. All right, Danny Kelly, you look very stern.
No, he doesn't.
He did there in that shot then.
I was most surprised that you came to me first, because normally it's always Jonathan.
No, I take it in turns.
No, you don't always alternate. I've noticed
No, I alternate. No, it depends what the subject is. I start with.
So you admit that depending on the subject?
Yeah, but I alternate depending on what the subject is, but I start with whoever...
Oh, you're eating into his airtime, come on.
Yeah, no, get on with it. Anyway, it's his own fault, he started it.
I think that you could look at cutting welfare, to use Farage's phrase, to spend on warfare. It's an incredible, just a clicky little thing, isn't it? But it works. Welfare, cut welfare to spend on warfare. And I think there are various low-level welfare issues that could be cut. I was reading an article from a Tory MP, Helen Whately, I think it is, and she was saying that there's billions of pounds spent on, and to use her words, low-level mental health issues, things like ADHD and, low-level spectrum issues that previously, up until about 4 or 5 years ago, no one would have really known about a financial benefit that the government would hand out for that. I mean, Keir Starmer, the problem is that Keir Starmer 12 months ago tried to get it through the House of Commons. He realises, Labour realises how on the button welfare is, how important it is to so many people. But, of course, there was a backbench revolt. Now, one of the things about having such a huge majority is that sometimes if there's a revolt on the backbench, even he can't get it through. And so he had to cut his cloth accordingly. And I think that it should be cut. Now, I don't have the answers as to where, because if I was to say take 0.5% off the NHS, people would understandably be up in arms saying, so what about this and what about that? But again, it sort of goes back a little bit to Nigel Farage. Sorry to keep bringing this up, but that was the first question of the day, about there maybe being too many people in the country. Too many people who then, pro rata per capita, are dependent on welfare. And so I think with Putin, I think there is a very real threat about Vladimir Putin. I think we spend about 2.4 on defence. I think Donald Trump, who we're going to talk about later on, wants us to breach the 3%. Poland spend about 5%, but then they are neighbours of Russia and neighbours of Ukraine. So, yeah, in theory, in principle, I think that we could try and save a few bob on welfare.
All right, Jonathan Liss.
Well, look, I mean, it really depends on what kind of welfare you're talking about. I'm not...
You can cut it. What bit are you talking about?
Look, I'm not an absolutist on welfare, and I obviously, I'm happy to have a conversation about, going through the welfare bill with a fine-tooth comb and seeing where savings can be made. And also, I think that there can be all kinds of different incentives for people. I obviously much prefer a carrot approach to a stick approach in welfare. But I also think that we have to be upfront about the biggest source of the welfare bill, which is pensions. And, you know, I've had lots of debates about pensions on this channel with people who keep on telling me about how we need to slash the welfare bill and then get apoplectic when you suggest that maybe we need to get rid of the triple lock, which is a benefit. It is a benefit that is from another time where Britain was rolling in money and there was no such thing as a global financial crisis, and it seemed like the good times would never end. Obviously, the good times did end, and boy, did they end. So I think that the triple lock, particularly with a rapidly ageing population, is something that is not going to be, you know, a thing that we'll be telling our grandchildren about if we're lucky enough to have them, because I don't think that we'll be ever getting a triple lock. So people in my cohort, let alone the ones after that, I doubt even if there'll be a state pension by the time we get to the age of 70, or it might be 75 when you start claiming it. So, you know, there are conversations about how to fund this. I also think that we need to look at spending in the round and think that, yes, obviously the MOD has, you know, its own interests. The MOD always wants more money from the Treasury. And, you know, when you're the Prime Minister, you don't have the luxury of only looking at one area. And you also have to look at where, you know, if you're going to put more money into defence, automatically that means that you'll have to raise money from elsewhere or take money from elsewhere. And those are conversations that we need to have out loud and in the open.
What about of people who are claiming for anxiety? Surely if you're anxious, you need to get back to work and start thinking about something else.
No, I'm not. I don't want to make broad brush generalisations.
Why not?
Because in some cases, it may be that those people don't need to be on benefits, and in other cases, it may well be that they have a strong case for claiming them.
No, but how about you took away the notion that anxiety is something that you can claim benefits for? Because I get it. But that's, in my view, everyone's anxious. So I don't believe that you should be given PIP because you have anxiety. I just think that that is a new sort of trendy kind of illness that people have come up with.
You look at people who might have such crippling anxiety they can't get out of bed in the morning. That exists.
That's different.
That exists. But that's what I'm saying. These are umbrella terms. In the same way they're saying someone who is brilliantly depressed is different from someone who's sad.
I don't believe that if you've got crippling whatever it is that you can't get out of bed, that is anxiety. That's probably something deeper. But anxiety should not be a term with which you can claim benefits.
Well, these are for doctors to decide.
Well, the doctors are simply giving away all of this because they're too busy, so they're just putting people on benefits. They don't even look at the thing properly.
It may well be that there are some people who are claiming money that ideally should not be claimed. That some doctors,
many people,
and that I'm not discounting the possibility that there are.
Would not be.
No, I'm not discounting the possibility there are gaps in the system that can be exploited by people. But I don't think the answer is to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say that no one who suffers from anxiety, which can be a deeply crippling condition, should be able to claim benefits.
And in particular, the young people, really young, who are saying they've got anxiety. I'm sorry, but get with the programme. We're all anxious, and we've all got to get on with it.
And also, if you can go to... Let's just be really cynical, and I don't have the numbers, nor does Jonathan, but I think that a hell of a lot of people swing the lead with this ADHD and anxiety illness, and then the benefits that go hand in hand with this. For example, you can then get a Motability car, you know, free of charge. You then get access to a...
Not for ADHD.
Well, if you're part of this payment spectrum for anxiety, anxiety is part of the ADHD family, I think. But look, none of us are clinically qualified. But anyway, the point is, Jonathan, that opens a door to so many benefits. You get this car paid for by the taxpayer. Yes, you have to give them your PIP payment every month. I get that. Then you get free insurance, free servicing, free road tax. And this costs the taxpayer, you and me, billions of pounds every year. Now, I don't have the number of people who swing the lead, but there seems to have been an upsurge over the last 4 or 5 years of people all of a sudden developing these taxpayer-funded illnesses.
Look, I don't think that the answer to any of this is to take money away from some of the poorest and most vulnerable people in society, and that's why. But that is why there's such a backlash with the PIP payments, because it's the ordinary people.
They got that totally wrong, though. They didn't do it correctly. If it were me, I would have started with the word anxiety. And just to correct things, yes, you can claim benefits for ADHD. That is if your symptoms significantly impact your daily living or mobility. Eligibility is not based on diagnosis, but how it affects you on a daily basis. Yep. All right, stay tuned. 46 minutes after 3 o'clock. Let's check out the forecast in Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine? Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. Some showers affecting parts of Spain, otherwise lots of dry weather, lots of warm sunshine, feeling very warm in that sunshine across some areas. Now some showers could turn a bit heavy at times across parts of Spain. We'll also start to see some showers bubbling up through Monday across the Adriatic coastline. But otherwise lots of dry settled weather as high pressure continues, feeling very warm across some inland areas as well. The sunshine is set to continue into next week and temperatures turning quite hot by the end of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I quit, well, I retired from swimming after Paris 2024 Olympic Games. The main reason being that I just couldn't financially support myself swimming anymore. So I retired at 24 years old and then started working in the corporate world. And then to go to your point, how I got involved, I had a former teammate who joined the Enhanced Games and he called me and was like, there's a spot on the team for a swimmer, a butterfly swimmer. I said you'd be a good fit. So I just got speaking to him and then spoke with the Enhanced team and yeah, kind of moved on from there.
The lines aren't crossing, are they, between proper, I say proper, and with respect, you know, when we look at Olympic sports, etc., where drugs are not allowed, this is almost a completely separate thing, right? And there's no blurred lines between the two of them.
We're in a different league. We're doing something completely different, right? Are we swimming the same events? Are we running the same events? Yeah, but we're not competing against the athletes in the other league.
GB News, Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
3 legendary builders have become internet cookery stars by knocking up hot dinners in their transit van. It's White Van Scran. Let's now speak with the builders Nathan and Pedro Moore and Archie Price. Lads, you've become internet legends.
Right.
Pedro,
Hello.
you're the chef, and I believe you're about to knock us up some White Van Scran. Over to you.
I'm going to do a quick omelette for you right here, right now.
Quick omelette. This is how we do it.
Straight in pan.
Are we classed as legends then?
Yeah, you're legends, mate. So tell us what's going on here. You're pouring, what is that, batter? Here you go. You're chopping up a pepper, what, with a Stanley knife?
Yeah, so now straight in.
Fresh blade.
Every time.
All right, and what's going into this, lads? What are you doing for us here?
Salt, pepper, onion, garlic. Really, it's like easy, fun cooking. You put whatever you want in it.
The People's Channel. GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
The Children Junior School in Derby, they noticed the children were failing to develop adequate social skills, and coaching youngsters in chat, etc., was important. I really do think we've got 1 million young people out of work right now, and I truly believe because of mobile phones and because of social media and because people are stuck in their bedroom, they are losing the art of conversation, and I think it's tragic.
Families should be talking.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's been such a huge shift because this is a primary school, and they're basically saying don't give smartphones to primary school aged children. Wait till they're in secondary. But I would say that most parents are thinking that now. Millennials, we're much stricter about screen time, much more so than say the generation before us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. This is GB News, Britain's #1 news channel. I'm Nana Akua. Right, let's travel over to the United States and speak to the host of the Politics People podcast, Paul Dudridge, and find out what Akua stateside. And, of course, it's happy birthday to you. Donald Trump, he's 80 today. Woohoo!
I know, isn't it? Let joy be unconfined. I can just feel the love and appreciation all across the United States and the UK for Donald Trump now being 80 years old in office. Quite a remarkable achievement. And, you know, many more years to come.
Now, yes, so, of course, the UFC fight tonight is on South Lawn of Trump's White House. Now, that's unusual. Is it unusual to have a fight there?
Well, you say this, yes. It's lots of stuff with Trump's administration is unusual, I have to say. But they've built the Octagon for the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and they're going to be, you know, these are actually some kind of title belt event. And so this outdoor Octagon. But when you look into it, Teddy Roosevelt apparently had like boxing matches in the White House. So there is a long, noble tradition of hand-to-hand combat actually at the White House and events at the White House. Remember, there's a lot of people complaining about this is defiling the sanctity of the White House, the idea of having this event. And then you look back a couple of years under the Biden administration when they had the for Pride Day during the month of Pride, so-called, that you had topless trans people wandering around the gardens of the White House. So there's a bit of a double standard being applied. But yes, tonight it's Trump's celebration. It's extraordinary. He's turning 80. The nation is turning 250 in a couple of weeks. And this is part of the Freedom 250 schedule of events, and I think it's great actually, because it's not just that event. If you go online and sort of see the preparation for it, you sort of see people on doing stunt. Yeah. It's like Evel Knievel. It's like Evel Knievel mixed with UFC, all happening on the South Lawn, and I think it's returning a bit of entertainment to the White House.
Nice. Now, let's talk about the Iran deal. Apparently, there's been signed today, but there've been 38 announcements, I think, of a deal with Iran since we actually started this thing.
Yes. OK. So, yeah, you're covering it fantastically. Apparently, the Iran deal, it probably will get signed today because Tehran seems to have signed it off, and he's going off to the G7 tomorrow. So he wants to, when he sees the G7 leaders, he wants to have had this signed. So expect this to be signed. But this is, I believe, the 38th or 39th announcement that the war is coming to an end from Donald Trump. So I'm hoping 38 or 39 is one of his lucky numbers. But yes, we're expecting it to be signed because it would be great. Look, Donald Trump wants it on his birthday. It would be amazing if he ended the war on his birthday. That would be another string to his bow.
Yeah, it absolutely would be. Paul Duddridge, host of the Politics People podcast. Thank you so much, as ever. Right. Well, stay with me, because next up in my niggle, as Nigel Farage says that Britain is a two-tier state against white people, I investigate the party's latest policy to put migrants to the back of the housing queue. But first, your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead, it's going to be a rather cool, fresh night ahead for many. A different story in the southwest, though, quite a warm night to come. And that leads us into a dry, settled day on Monday. Very similar conditions to what we've had this afternoon, all thanks to a ridge of high pressure stretching across the country. Far fewer isobars on the chart as well, so much lighter winds for many of us. Plenty of late evening sunshine to finish off the day. Clear skies across Scotland, northern and eastern parts of England, so turning much cooler here overnight, particularly across Scotland. Some temperatures here not pushing much below the mid to low single figures, so feeling much cooler by Monday morning. But it's a very different story across southern parts of Wales, southwest England. A warm night to come, temperatures not dropping much past the mid single figures. So a warm start here to start off the day, but actually plenty of bright, if not sunny spells. We do have this stretch of cloud across parts of Wales, central and southeast England. This could produce some showers. We may even hear the odd rumble of thunder. Quite a fine start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, and also across Scotland. But like I say, quite a chilly start. But actually through Monday, many of us will see another dry, settled day with some sunny spells. We do just have to keep an eye on these showers as they drift their way northeastwards. Once again, the odd spark of lightning associated with those. And then later into the day across the northwest, clouding over here. Once again, the odd shower or two expected. But where we see the brighter weather in the light winds, once again, it will be feeling warm. Highs reaching into the mid-single figures across much of England and Wales. They're a little bit fresher across some northeastern coasts and eastern areas of Scotland. Now, through the course of the night, this band of thicker cloud will start to produce some more outbreaks of rain as it drifts its way northeastwards, a few showers starting to push into the west. And this is a very similar pattern to what we'll see next week, some showers and cloud at times, but actually temperatures increasing day by day, turning rather warm by the end of the week.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab a chance to live the summer of your dreams.
With a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in tax-free cash to be won.
Someone really has to win it, and it could be you.
For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to
stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. It is 4 o'clock, and this show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly, and political commentator Jonathan Liss. Coming up in my niggle.
We've got policy making it clear that anti-white racism is acceptable.
As Reform UK's Suella Braverman says that Britain is a two-tier state against white people, I investigate the party's latest policy to put migrants to the back of the housing queue. Then, in the Great British debate, I've been asking, should foreign nationals be entitled to council housing? My poll is live on gbnews.com. Head over, please cast your vote. Dramatic footage as British forces seize a Russian Shadow Fleet tanker in the English Channel for the first time. But is the brave work of the Royal Marines, in spite of being underfunded? Shadow Defence Secretary James Cartledge thinks so.
Everyone knows that 0.08% is nothing like enough, and we know that John Healey himself, the previous Defence Secretary, thought that that's why he resigned. The threat is much greater, so we need to increase defence spending to 3%, and we think a big part of that has got to come from cutting welfare.
Park Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy promised Labour will keep the country safe.
We've overseen the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. And when we first came into government, within weeks, we'd commissioned a strategic defence review.
Well, in the interview, I'll be speaking to former outspoken Tory MP turned author Louise Mensch. As the internet is being blamed for riots in Belfast, Louise has long been campaigning for social media blackouts in times of crisis. That'll be interesting. And in the next Great British Debate, I'm also asking, is Donald Trump too old to be the president? He turns 80 today. Happy birthday. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Bethany Elsey.
Nana, thank you. Good afternoon. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 4:02. British armed forces have intercepted and seized a Russian oil tanker in the English Channel. Sir Keir Starmer confirmed Royal Marine Commandos and specially trained officers boarded the vessel, supported by the RAF, in the early hours of this morning. It will now be held and monitored off the south coast of England. Russia has been operating a shadow fleet of tankers to evade international sanctions that were imposed on its oil exports since its war with Ukraine started. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has thanked the UK for intercepting the vessel. The new Defence Secretary says he's determined to get the armed forces the funding they need after his predecessor quit over the government's military spending plans. In his first interview since his promotion, Dan Jarvis told The Telegraph his party must meet the moment amid increasing global threats. Meanwhile, the Conservatives have urged Labour to cut welfare spending in order to increase defence investment. The Shadow Defence Secretary James Cartledge spoke to GB News this morning.
One knows that 0.08% is nothing like enough, and we know that John Healey himself, the previous Defence Secretary, thought that that's why he resigned. The threat is much greater, so we need to increase defence spending to 3%, and we think a big part of that has got to come from cutting welfare.
Well, Labour's Lisa Nandy has defended her party's track record.
We've overseen the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. And when we first came into government, within weeks, we'd commissioned a strategic defence review.
President Donald Trump has said a peace deal between the US and Iran will be signed today to end the fighting and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian officials have told Reuters that Tehran has agreed not to produce or acquire any nuclear weapons under the draft deal, but Iran's foreign ministry says they're cautious about commenting on when the agreement will be signed. Police have arrested 6 activists after a pro-Palestine rally outside a synagogue in North London. Edgware United Synagogue have organised a counter-protest against what they've described as harassment and bullying against the Jewish community. Footage on social media shows police detaining protesters after some clashed from either side. Commander Adam Sloanke says there's a distinction between protesting in central London and in the heart of communities, adding that the potential to cause intimidation is greater. He said officers will use the full range of powers to avoid serious disruption. Nigel Farage has pledged to evict foreign nationals from council housing. Under the Reform leader's plans, migrants living in social housing would be given 3 months to find private accommodation or face being deported. Instead, veterans and long-term local residents will be given priority, along with domestic abuse survivors. And it's Donald Trump's birthday today. The US president turns 80 and he's celebrating by staging a night of cage fighting on the South Lawn. The event is also part of celebrations marking the 250th anniversary of US independence. Those are your latest headlines. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Thank you, Bethany. It is just coming up to 6 minutes after 4 o'clock. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, Nigel Farage has vowed to evict foreign nationals living in council houses and warns that they could face deportation. I think Nigel is onto something here. Tonight, Reform UK's leader will lay out his plans as part of the Operation Restoring Justice. Basically, if you are a foreign national living in council housing in the UK, you must move into private rented accommodation within 3 months or face deportation. Well, that makes perfect sense to me. I can already see those on the left about to warn me that they'll be after me next. No, I'm a British citizen, born in Newcastle, and I have never lived in social housing. But if you can find another country on the earth that would house a foreign national in council accommodation on arrival indefinitely, then I'll eat my wig. Nigel will lay out the proposals in an essay due to be published tonight. He wrote, "Foreign nationals who are unable to relocate to private rented accommodation after a 3-month grace period will lose their right to remain and be liable for deportation under Operation Restoring Justice." Now, I personally have no problem with this because other countries wouldn't even give you a house in the first place. Why should the British taxpayer fund foreign nationals indefinitely? It makes no sense and is open to abuse. Operation Restoring Justice would prioritise veterans, so those who have fought for this country, and it would also prioritise long-term local residents, and the most vulnerable would be exempt from the stricter rules. About time, really, especially when you consider that, according to Migration Observatory data, 1 in 10 new social housing lettings between 2022 and 23 went to non-UK citizens. If you have dual nationality under Operation Restoring Justice, rather than being automatically removed from social housing, you would have restrictions on welfare entitlements, which would include housing benefit. Again, if you are not fully committed to this country, why should this country be fully committed to you? I'd say that that is fair enough. Nigel has pledged that British nationals will have priority. He described the allocation of thousands of social housing tenancies to refugees since 2020 as an absurdity and claimed that around a third of social housing tenants in London were born outside the UK and Ireland. Well, you might remember the case of Fatima Jabe-Bayo, Sierra Leone's First Lady, who lived in a council house in Southwark from 2007 until it was eventually reclaimed after there was an investigation. I mean, what is that about? Are you telling me that she's in urgent need? Hardly. She's the First Lady. It's ridiculous. This country is bursting at the seams and we can only afford so much. Under this government, we are the highest taxed that we've ever been. And if rumours are to be believed, they're about to tax us even more to fund defence, instead of perhaps cutting the astronomical welfare bill, which exceeds the tax take. Now, I don't have a problem with paying tax if it's going to a worthy cause, but the British taxpayer is not an unquestioning cash cow, and I'm sorry, but housing foreign nationals ahead of veterans and the British people indefinitely is not something that I have signed up to do. So it's 9 minutes after 4 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Don't forget as well, download that GB News app and you can watch all the programmes at your leisure. But coming up this hour, in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is it now time to scrap net zero? And all of that as the Prime Minister overrules Ed Miliband on electric cars. Then in the next Great British Debate, I'm asking, do you believe that Donald Trump can end the war in Iran? The US President says that it's set to be signed tonight, promising it's not just talk. And it is victory. And it's victory for Scotland in the World Cup as they beat Haiti in their opening game of the tournament. Well, stay tuned, that is all coming up. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments, or why not scan that QR code right now. I'll leave it there for a tiny, tiny time. Let's do that. Speak to you in a bit. Right now, though, I'm joined by Peter Edwards, who's the former editor of The Labour List. Peter Edwards, welcome. Oh, he's there. It's very dark there. Peter, talk to me about this. What are your thoughts on this? Because what Nigel is saying is that it is a bit unfair to British nationals if foreign nationals are housed ahead of them and then housed indefinitely.
I think Reform are on course to lose the Makerfield by-election, and they're worried about being outflanked by Restore, the fringe party, and they're trying to make more and more right-wing comments to get through the Makerfield by-election. So I think this is born out of desperation.
Well, is it, though? Because I think a lot of people would question why a foreign national would be given a council house to begin with and then given that council house indefinitely when there is a serious situation of lack of council houses for people in this country who are British.
Well, Nana, apologies I'm cutting across you. The feed is coming and going. But as I understand it, council house tenancies are for life. So you can't retract a tenancy or rip up a contract once it's been provided. That would just be illegal.
Well, exactly, which is why Nigel is saying that if you are a foreign national, you can't simply be given a council house and then be able to stay in it for life, when there are plenty of British nationals who can't get to the council houses, and as foreign nationals, some
Again,
are even
apologies
put
I'm
ahead.
cutting across you, the sound coming and going. But if Nigel Farage is talking about council tenancies being awarded lawfully, then dragging people out where the state rips up their contract, sends them back to their own country, even though they have a legal agreement to be in that house, that sounds like dictatorship. And of course, there's enormous housing pressure. I've lived in London for most of my adult life, including some of the poorest parts of London, like Tower Hamlets. But the idea that we pitch communities against each other is a nonsense. And Britain's a G8 country. And yes, we're going through tough times economically after COVID and the disaster with Brexit. But as a G8 country and a humane country, we should be able to house and we should be able to build more housing for people who have a right to be here. And of course, we have to bear in mind that asylum seekers who have a very, very, very tough time are not occupying these houses because they don't have a right to social housing. So I'll come back to where I started. This is a policy that is most likely illegal. And why is he saying it just 4 or 5 days before the Makerfield by-election? Because they're panicking.
Well, OK, Peter Edwards, I know you're having trouble hearing and the whole situation, so we'll leave it there. But I would put it to you that a lot of people would find this a perfectly reasonable proposition and find it quite an unreasonable one, that you should be a foreign national and be given a house in the UK indefinitely for the rest of your life. I think that's a shocker. All right, Peter Edwards, thank you very much. He's the former editor of the Labour List. Right. Well, on Nigel Farage's deportation plans, a government spokesperson said illegal migrants, asylum seekers and migrants on student or work visas are not eligible for social housing. Nearly 9 in 10 social homes go to UK nationals, and most councils have tough local connection rules in place to ensure housing goes to people who need it most. Yes, that sounds very good, but is it actually how it works? And the Makerfield by-election will take place on the 18th of June. And because it was mentioned, I need to announce the candidates. OK, so Andy Burnham, the Labour Party, Alan Howling, Lord Hope, the official monster-raving Looney Party, Robert Kenyon, Reform UK, Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain, Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party, Jake Austin, the Liberal Democrats, Dan Clark, the Libertarian Party, Peter Mark Ward, the Rejoin EU Party, Sarah Wakefield, Green Party, Ed Gemmell, the Climate Party, Robert Pownall, Independent, John Alfred Dyer, Independent, Paul Richard Gould, Independent, and Count Binface Party. Right, it's just coming up to 15 minutes after 4 o'clock. If you just tuned in, I'll say welcome to you, but we do start at 3. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News, Britain's #1 news channel. Still to come, my interview. The social media is blamed for the unrest in Belfast. I'll speak to former Tory MP Louise Mensch, who has long been campaigning for blackouts in times of crisis. But next, in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is it now the time to scrap net zero? This is GB News.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late-night TV shows. We're giving you a front-row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon, 18 minutes after 4 o'clock. If you just tuned in, where have you been? No? Really? OK, look, I'll give you that one, but just don't do it again, all right? I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Let's do the Great British Giveaway, because it's your chance to win £76,543.21. It's totally tax-free. Here are the details.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab a chance to live the summer of your dreams. As we could be making all of those dreams come true this year with a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in tax-free cash to be won. Someone really has to win it, and it could be you. What would you do with all that cash? That could be your year on us. Or find yourself in the lap of 5-star luxury, somewhere like here, the Imperial Island Resort in Paphos. You really could be the next guaranteed winner, but don't miss out, there's only 2 weeks left to enter.
For a chance to win £76,543.21 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Right now, though, it is time for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, is it now time to abandon net zero? Energy Secretary Ed Miliband has been warned by former Armed Forces Minister Al Khans that energy policy is a security issue and not an environmental one. And now even Sir Keir Starmer says that he will water down the UK's electric vehicle sales targets. Well, why do you think that is? It's because it's not worked, does it? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is it now time to abandon net zero? All right, joining me, broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly, and also political commentator Jonathan Liss. Because Danny was complaining, I spat everywhere. You were complaining earlier.
No,
we'll come to you first.
Confusing
Don't waste time.
A complaint with an observation.
No, it is a complaint, and you were wrong as well.
I'd like to see what the meat on the bone is with the watering down of this crazy net zero electric vehicle mandate. You need to remember, of course, that I think it's Unite the Union who are one of Labour's biggest backers. I think are putting pressure on the Starmer administration to say, you know, this 2035 deadline is going to cost us hundreds of thousands of jobs in the UK. And that's the gritty reality of net zero. It is, if you like a car. It's like an impact, a car hitting something. Because at some point you had to get down to reality. This net zero electric vehicle, this target is going to cost people thousands of jobs. So what's more important, the Labour administration keeping Unite in their pocket, all of those future Labour votes, or the decline of the planet, according to Mad Ed Miliband, as he's often called in the media? I think that we should take some of the net zero funding, which is tens of billions of pounds a year. We were talking about warfare or welfare or warfare. You could actually chuck a few bob in from that as well. So I think it is time to abandon it. We are such a small country, polluting the environment by 1% of total world population, carbon deposits or whatever it is, CO2, yeah? I just think it's pointless. Well, I really do think it's pointless.
Well, that's quite a dubious figure, really, that you know that and I know that that's just based on carbon emissions that we've actually exported to China, but we are one planet, so whatever we emit, either if it's through China or through ourselves, is still carbon being emitted. I think it's an absolute shocker. But, Jonathan Liss, I mean, how do you feel about it? Because net zero could mean electric ambulances, which is a bit of a joke. Yeah. That's absolutely absurd. And also, they were talking about electric tanks. You're laughing. That's what they were saying. This is a reality.
Yeah. Science has known strange things, Nana. Look, the point is that if you were just to say who are the biggest polluters, they're the ones who have to deal with this. Obviously, no country is going to say, OK, fine, so we pollute the most, so we're going to cut back on our emissions, but you only pollute, well, less than 1%, so you just carry on as you are. Clearly, everyone has to do their bit. It's not, I mean, you know, I have lots of criticisms of America and China, but clearly those are not the only two countries that need to be thinking about this. And if Britain wants to use its influence to persuade other countries, then it has to be taking a lead, has to be setting an example. And also, there is a lot of, you know, investment that comes from clean energy, green infrastructure, etc. And that is going to be the future. We have to make those investments now. And also, it's not just about charity or sort of, you know, hair shirts. There's money to be made from these, you know, sort of from these new industries, and you know there are plenty of startups as well as government infrastructure and investment that is focused on that as well. So it's not just about, you know, sort of making the best of a bad job. There is a future in this, just as there, you know, has been, you know, for time immemorial in new technologies as, you know, as progress and technology advances.
All right. So
I think it's written. So it is important that we keep this kind of policy. I'm not saying that you can't make tweaks to the individual ways of delivering it. I'm not saying that, you know, you can't maybe, you know, sort of delay certain aspects of it if necessary, but just kicking the can down the road isn't going to work. And we have to, so often, governments are criticised for short-term thinking, the next news cycle. This is a genuine policy where governments can be responsible for the future of our children and grandchildren and their children. And I think the governments have to be thinking about that.
OK, so what do you think is more imminent? War with Russia or the planet about to self-combust because of the emissions that we're putting out? Let me finish the sentence. Well, at least let me finish the sentence. Or the emissions. Which one do you think is more pressing? Do you think the planet is about to self-combust? Or do you think the war with Russia would come first?
Well, I very much hope that neither will happen, actually.
All right, but if you were to put them in order of likelihood, as in which one will be first, which one do you think would come first, the war in Russia or self-combusting planet?
I very much hope that the war in Russia doesn't happen ever.
Yeah, but out of those two, if you had to put them in order, which one would come first, in your view?
Well, I mean... Sorry, what was the second one? The Earth combusting?
Because of all the CO2 that we're putting in the atmosphere.
That's not what people are worried about.
What are they worried about, because I'm wondering?
No one's talking about sort of spontaneous combustion.
Well, they're talking about the planet becoming so hot that we can't exist on it. Well, which one do you think will come first? Whichever one you want to describe it.
No one's saying
that it's more imminent that we'll have a war in Russia, or that it's going to be too hot?
No, I'm not a climate scientist, but most climate scientists that I have heard, they say the risk is not that everyone on the planet is going to die in some kind of dinosaur apocalypse. It's that, you know, sea temperatures, like rising seas, rising temperatures will make certain parts of the world uninhabitable that are currently inhabited. Will lead to wildly extreme... Right, so there's climate migration. So not everyone's going to die.
With all of that, OK, so because that's how ridiculous the net zero thing is to me. With all of that in mind, which one of, however you're describing the climate emergency as, which one do you think it would happen first? A war in Russia or the climate emergency that you are describing?
Well, if you're talking about the most alarmist
well, just you, for you.
I'm hoping, and I don't believe that a war with Russia will happen, but the people who say that it might happen are talking about maybe a 10-year time frame.
Right, so
clearly
do you think
that is going to happen first.
Years?
But the premise of your question, I think, is wrong because
Why?
it's not an either or.
Yes, it is.
No,
it is because look, it is because I'm asking you to prioritise, which is what we do when we're governments. When we're in government, we prioritise in order of magnitude, in order of likelihood, and then we work with that. Now, if you think in 200 years we're going to have a sticky situation with the environment, then you work to that, but slowly. But you don't do it in front of something that is there's a great likelihood. We've just had a Russian shadow fleet in our waters that we've had to escort out. Now, what do you think is more imminent? And it's really quite simple. Danny Kelly, what do you think is more imminent?
I'm not convinced about the urgency of this. We're told, is it 2050?
Are you talking about climate change?
Yes. Unless we reach global targets by 2050, we turn a corner and we can't go back round the corner. That's my understanding of things, right? But we also do have a very real threat, I believe, with Putin.
Right now.
And we are... The military is an embarrassment on the worldwide stage. And I'm incredibly patriotic, and I hate talking so dismissively of the brave men and women in our military, because I haven't got the courage to be a soldier or an airman, whatever. But our military is an embarrassment. We've cut back on it, and I think we should divert a load of dough from Ed Miliband's £10 billion a year, I think, maybe even a few quid more, and plough it into the military.
I think it's over 20 billion. It's carbon capture. What for? You're about to go into a war. How much carbon do you think those rockets and all those things put into the atmosphere? It's nonsense that you're talking about net zero.
Anna, Jonathan rightly said that it's a collective responsibility, but we only have, if it is 2050, if we go round a corner and we can't turn back round the corner, we've got to get everybody, in the next 24 years, Jonathan, we've got to get all of these big polluters on side. And my understanding is that it's only the UK and maybe a few other countries who are almost self-flagellating about this.
The major...
And we're all paying for it in our taxes, Jonathan. Our green taxes, mate.
Well, the major economies in the world have signed up to the Paris Agreement, and, you know, they're in terms of what you just said about our taxes, well, actually, the green levies are...
But that's in the future. We're going to benefit. It's an investment, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the government is making investments in green energy as it should, and this is not, as I said before, this is not just about hair shirts and sort of cutting back. This is also about investment and making money for people.
But at the moment, we have a very real threat from Vladimir Putin about a potential war.
But it's not either or.
But that's before
the Britain should be making investment in its defence. It doesn't have to come from net zero.
Well, where will the cuts come from? Where are you going to take the money?
As I said before, there are different ways. You either have to focus on finding money from new sources, which is borrowing or new taxes, basically, or you cut money from other departments. I am not in the business. I'm not in the business of cutting spending. I'm not a politician, obviously, but if I was, I wouldn't be in the business of cutting spending, particularly unless there was egregious waste that you could identify. And lo and behold, most people who think they identify egregious waste, case in point, Elon Musk, actually finds out they don't manage to find egregious waste. They just cut things that shouldn't be cut. USAID, a case in point, which has now seen, I think, 600,000 people die because they decided to cut the US aid budget. And we also have cut the aid budget here, which I think was a mistake. There are different ways of doing this. I think we can increase our defence budget and stick to our environmental targets, which are not only going to be important for encouraging other countries to do the same, but for investing in our future and our children's future.
All right, but can I just ask, do you think that now is the time, though, to ditch net zero because of the state of affairs that we're in now? Pause it. Do something.
People, there's always a reason for pausing something.
Which would be
and there's a good reason.
I think that when you say pausing, I don't know what that means. You mean sort of taking the investment out that's already been made? If you stop investing in something, you can't just sort of start it again.
Why not?
Depends on what the project. Depends on what the project is, obviously.
Starmer's pausing the EV thing, isn't he? Starmer's realised that he's got to pause it.
As I say, there may be some cases where you can potentially delay a few specific targets or stop the introduction. I'm not sort of an absolutist or a zealot. I don't think that I don't have sort of a particular commitment to every single aspect of the policy, and I'm always open to be persuaded on these issues. But I haven't seen a convincing argument for getting rid of a really cast-iron commitment by successive British governments of all colours to deliver for a carbon-neutral future for our children.
Well, I disagree. I I admire your sentiments about generations who are going to benefit from it. I just think at the moment there's a very real threat of a military threat, and I think that we could mothball it for a short while, for 2 or 3 years, or maybe 5 years.
Yeah, well, mothball...
Wait for... Well, you don't know that mothballing won't work, because don't forget, we're still waiting for people to catch up.
You know what happens with mothballing? You know, the can once it's in the grass, it never gets picked up again.
Well, also, if you mothball for a bit, maybe you'll come up with some better technologies that will be more useful, and maybe you'll improve the longevity of electric batteries and electric cars and all that kind of thing, and maybe it'll be more convincing for people to go that way. But right now, it's an expensive folly, frankly, that will leave you on the motorway, especially if you're a single female in your car. I don't think that feels good to me, having to look for a charging point or being stuck on the road. I don't think so, no. All right, what do you think, though? gbnews.com/your say. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. Still to come, my interview. The social media is blamed for unrest in Belfast. I'll be speaking to former Tory MP Louise Mensch, who's been long campaigning for blackouts in times of crisis. But next, in the next Great British Debate of this hour, I'm asking, do you believe Donald Trump can end the Iran war? But first, your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsie.
Good afternoon. The headlines from the GB newsroom. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has praised Sir Keir Starmer after UK armed forces intercepted a Russian Shadow Fleet oil tanker in the English Channel this morning. The new Defence Secretary says he's determined to get the armed forces the funding they need after his predecessor quit over the government's military spending plans. Meanwhile, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch is calling on the Prime Minister to cut welfare spending and redirect the savings to defence. Police have arrested 6 activists after a pro-Palestine rally took place outside a synagogue in North London. And some breaking news. Lewis Hamilton has won the Barcelona-Catalunya Grand Prix, marking his 106th victory. It's the British driver's first win with Ferrari and his first Grand Prix title in 2 years. He last won Belgium in 2024. The 41-year-old is Formula One's oldest winner since Australia's Jack Brabham, who was 43 when he won in South Africa in 1970. You're up to date for now. I'll have a full roundup for you at 5 o'clock.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead, it's going to be a rather cool, fresh night ahead for many. Different story in the southwest, though, quite a warm night to come. And that leads us into a dry, settled day on Monday. Very similar conditions to what we've had this afternoon, all thanks to a ridge of high pressure stretching across the country. Far fewer isobars on the chart as well, so much lighter winds for many of us. Plenty of late evening sunshine to finish off the day. Clear skies across Scotland, northern and eastern parts of England, so turning much cooler here overnight, particularly across Scotland. Some temperatures here not pushing much below the mid to low single figures, so feeling much cooler by Monday morning. But it's a very different story across southern parts of Wales, southwest England. A warm night to come, temperatures not dropping much past the mid single figures, so a warm start here to start off the day, but actually plenty of bright if not sunny spells. We do have this stretch of cloud across parts of Wales, central and southeast England. This could produce some showers. We may even hear the odd rumble of thunder. Quite a fine start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, and also across Scotland, but like I say, quite a chilly start. But actually through Monday, many of us will see another dry, settled day with some sunny spells. We do just have to keep an eye on these showers as they drift their way northeastwards. Once again, the odd spark of lightning associated with those. And then later into the day across the northwest, clouding over here. Once again, the odd shower or two expected. But where we see the brighter weather in the light winds, once again, it will be feeling warm. Highs reaching into the mid-single figures across much of England and Wales. They're a little bit fresher across some northeastern coasts and eastern areas of Scotland. Now, through the course of the night, this band of thicker cloud will start to produce some more outbreaks of rain as it drifts its way northeastwards, a few showers starting to push into the west. And this is a very similar pattern to what we'll see next week, some showers and cloud at times, but actually temperatures increasing day by day, turning rather warm by the end of the week.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but But I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
36 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News, Britain's #1 news channel. We're 5 years old. 5 years. That's a long time for a news channel, and yet we are #1 already. It's great, isn't it? Right, it's time for the Great British Debate. This out, of course, all of that is thanks to you for watching and giving us support. I'm asking, do you believe that Donald Trump can end the Iran war? Now, I think it's 38 times now we think that we're on where he said that the war will be ending.
In 2 weeks, always in 2 weeks.
Yes.
President
Donald Trump has said a peace deal between the US and Iran will be signed tonight to end the fighting and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. But the Iranian government cast doubt over the timing, and hardline protesters in Iran voiced opposition to the possible deal. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you actually believe that Donald Trump can end the Iran war? Well, joining me now, broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly. And also, you look very serious there. I announced you seriously. You looked serious, and then you burst into a smile. He's cute, isn't he? And political commentator Jonathan Liss. Jonathan, all right, we're going to start with you, Jonathan. Do you think Donald Trump can end the war in Iran?
Well, look, I mean, anyone who begins the war ought to be able to end it. If, Trump suspends all campaigns against Iran, which I suppose he has done for the last sort of month and a half or so, and he offers to give Iran some of what Iran wants, or almost all of what Iran wants.
So nuclear weapons, the ability, I mean, so you're OK with Iran having the nuclear weapons?
Well, look, I think that we have to... I'm happy with Iran having material for its nuclear programme, this domestic nuclear programme. You had a whole JCPOA process under Obama that had sanctions relief for Iran in return for abandoning any nuclear programme, which, by the way, had a fatwa against it by the Supreme Leader. And even as recently as last year, the State Department said, and the National Intelligence Director said there was no evidence that Iran was building a nuclear weapon. And even if it had been, the White House said that it had been obliterated, that nuclear programme, last June, so rendering this war, even on its own terms, completely pointless. So Donald Trump has got himself into a situation where the main emphasis is now on the Straits of Hormuz, which were entirely open before this war started. No one was talking about the Straits of Hormuz before. Now that's the main feature, about getting it reopened. So nothing to do with the nuclear programme either. So Iran has basically got Trump where it thinks it wants him. Iran is, in most people's estimation, has actually got the upper hand, because they've shown that even with their severely degraded military, they can still keep this vital waterway that carries 20% of the world's energy in a chokehold. So obviously Trump now has no good options, because he either has to admit defeat or to sort of escalate the war in a way that's going to cost lots of US blood and treasure.
Blame him entirely for the start of the war. You wouldn't,
absolutely.
You wouldn't even look to Iran's activity to Israel and the proxies that they've used constantly attacking Israel and all that. You wouldn't see that that is one of the antagonising factors. And the fact that Iran massacred almost 40 or 50,000 of its own people. That's one of the reasons why
it wasn't a casus belli. It wasn't a casus belli.
No. But remember, Donald Trump said help is on the way, and what was one of the reasons why. No, but you have to plan. You don't just send it immediately. You have to think. You can't just, if you're going into somebody else's territory, you take time to think about how you'd approach it. So help is on its way. It was on the way, and he's arrived, and they're doing something about it. What would you do?
If you think that Donald Trump was motivated in any way by the plight of the Iranian
he said
people.
he was.
I have, a bridge across the Strait of Hormuz to Seli. There is, of course, he wasn't. He changed his story in the same interview. He said in one speech he made, he said that regime change was a reason for the war, and then he said in the same speech the regime change wasn't a reason for the war. The guy has no idea what he's doing or why he's doing it. He didn't, and he said the regime change had been affected by killing the Ayatollah.
He wanted to degrade the IRGC and the army there in Iran, so they had nothing left, so the people can then uprise themselves. So that is regime change, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's done by the US. So you are dismissing the fact that he went in, because why is it that you accept...
It was a war choice.
Why is it that you're ignoring the bit where he said that he was there because of what happened with the people, the execution of the people, but you're now taking note of the regime change thing
there was absolutely
why are you selectively
because there was absolutely no evidence that he cared at all about those people.
Well, he said it.
And he hasn't mentioned them at all in the last 3 months.
All right,
the idea this is about installed pro-democracy is absolute nonsense.
All right, well, that's your view. Danny Kelly.
The fact that there is no evidence that he cares about the people doesn't mean that he doesn't care about the people. What you're looking for is evidence, and there might not be evidence. You've got to sit down with him and see what's really going on in his mind. Now, when he said to the Iranian people, help is on its way, I agree with Jonathan. I disagree with you, Nana, because I think you're framing it as that was a longer-term thing, helping on the way. I got the impression that help was on the way.
Yeah, but...
He thought it was a Venezuela thing where he'd decapitate the leadership and install... and the Venezuelan people didn't get any help either, by the way.
Do you not think that when somebody says help is on the way, that person will then need to plan? Especially if they're bringing their own troops, their own artillery, their own... they had a big fleet coming there.
Should have qualified.
So you're going to tell the enemy exactly what you're going to do?
Well, the enemy would know that.
Do that.
No, but the enemy would know.
Well, they don't know what form that help will be, so why should he...
Well, they may think, like you, that help is on its way. Well, they may think, well, that means that it's going to be weeks and weeks and months and months.
So all you can pick out...
the Iranians aren't soft.
So all you can pick out from that is because it didn't arrive immediately, that he's not helping.
But there was people on the streets, and there was tens of thousands who were murdered, is my understanding.
Yes, before that,
help was on its way.
No, they were being murdered beforehand.
And Nana, guess what?
No, they were murdered beforehand, which is why he sent help in the first place. Did anybody else do anything? Did any other country step up for the Iranian people?
No, but it was just Israel and America.
How is this helping the Iranian people? And by the way, what you've seen and what you've seen...
Did anybody else step out to stop the regime from executing their own people?
Well, it hasn't stopped them, by the way.
Did anybody...
What you've seen... Well, bombing people from the sky isn't helping Iranian people either. There are different ways of helping... America's not helped a single Iranian person.
All right, so hang on. Did anybody step up to try and assist the Iranian people? Do anything after 40 to 50,000 of its own people in a day?
Well, first of all, I think that those figures are... I'm not defending the Iranian regime in any way, but I think that according to respected figures, it's closer to the single figure in the thousands. Still, not at all acceptable. But we have not at all acceptable. I'm not defending them in any way. But we do need to sort of use accurate figures. And if you were to invade a country which is being despicable to its citizens, that would be a lot of countries you'd be currently bombing. Obviously, there's absolutely no connection between the Iranian regime's treatment of protesters and this war. That is not the reason for it. And what they thought...
And you can't dismiss one thing but take the other bit that he said. Either you listen to everything he said or you're going to listen to nothing. One of the things he said was help was on the way, and presumably what he's delivered is the help. And one of the other things he said was that the Iranian people should do an uprising and he'll try and degrade the army, which is what initially happened. And the other thing is he did say that he was coming to help because of the execution of those people.
Nothing has been achieved. And by the way, the Iranian people have actually, there is evidence, the Iranian people have actually rallied behind the regime, which has become even more radicalised, by the way, because the newsroom leader is a bit aggrieved at having his wife and father killed.
Well, there's nothing without our viewers, so let's get our Great British Voice on to see what they think about the topic we're discussing. Adrian Gell in Shropshire. Donald Trump, do you think he could potentially end the Iranian war? Do you feel what he said, that he sent some sort of help? What do you think?
I think if anybody listens to Donald Trump and what he says, if you can understand actually what he means, then you're a better person than I am. Well, I suspect you are anyway, Nana, but I suspect that most journalists are just way beyond Donald Trump. Donald Trump has a verbiage that he uses and which leaves everybody wide open-mouthed and not knowing what on earth's going on. Do I believe he can end the war? Yes, I genuinely believe he can. I do think he has the Iranian people in his mind. I think the nuclear aspect is certainly in his mind. What I think also is that he didn't see the consequences of what would be happening to Middle Eastern oil exports and oil transportation through the Straits of Hormuz when he entered into this war, which has slightly confused him. But yes, I do think he can enter the war. Quite how he does it, I don't know. It will be interesting to see how the whole thing plays out.
Yeah.
Whether he can negotiate with the Iranians, anybody's guess. I hope he can, but I certainly wouldn't follow Jonathan's left-wing views on the subject. I think Trump has a view, he has a target, and he'll go for it. Even though he might use odd language to get there.
All right, Dr. Adrian Gell, always a pleasure in Shropshire. Thank you for your views.
Thank you, and happy birthday too, Nana.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it? GB News 5. Woo!
GB News, happy
Thank you for watching. Take care. All
God
right,
bless.
that's the brilliant Adrian Gell in Shropshire. He's lovely, isn't it? Right, OK, let's check out the forecast in Europe.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. Some showers affecting parts of Spain, otherwise lots of dry weather, lots of warm sunshine, feeling very warm in that sunshine across some areas. Now, some showers could turn a bit heavy at times across parts of Spain. We'll also start to see some showers bubbling up through Monday across the Adriatic coastline. But otherwise, lots of dry, settled weather as high pressure continues, feeling very warm across some inland areas as well. The sunshine is set to continue into next week and temperatures turning quite hot by the end of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
All the things that we might not think about when we think about a pint of beer, all the things that go into running a pub like this one. So I'll hand you the microphone, you tell us while I have a go at this. Don't judge me too harshly, Dawn.
Amazing. So obviously people don't take into effect that the energy costs and the raw material costs, also the packaging, overheads and the tax hikes. So when we're pulling a pint of beer, we have to think about the cost that's gone into making the beer and the rises in that. We also have to think about the overheads, the staff, the electrics which are plumbed in to pouring a pint. This obviously is very astronomical to pubs because if it increases, we're therefore going to have to put that onto the consumer, making the pint of beer more expensive.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
You can't help wondering if that's what Prince William, future king, of course, is sort of planning for the future, whether that's the sort of slightly more laid-back attitude towards modern life.
Yes, I mean, I think we're going to see a huge change in the type of monarchy we have when he comes to the throne. We can very much see that King Charles is his mother's son. King Charles very much regards the Coronation Act as a sacrament, that it's essentially akin to becoming a priest, something that you do for life, much as the Queen Elizabeth felt it was too, a deeply sacred spiritual bond, a covenant between God and himself and the people. We know that that is not really the way that Prince William regards monarchy as well. I personally think, for example, that Prince William will become the first king to abdicate.
GB News, the People's Channel. Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
I thought the film, which Spielberg did, didn't somehow strike the right note.
So this would be the way I felt about High Society, the musical. It's glossy, it's beautiful, it's impressive, but you feel a little bit distant from it. War Horse, you are in there. fantastic humour. That brings you in, you laugh with them, you care about them. So even when they're in the trenches and Albert makes a friend, they're bantering about girlfriends and things like that. You absorb how arbitrary and terrible war is. You know, decisions made by people far away, young lads just shoved over to run horse charges
and it's
into...
happening now,
yeah.
Stefan, let's be honest.
Absolutely.
What you're describing is happening now.
Well, this is why it's resonating so much, because you're sitting there going, what is the point? It's so beautifully done. I cannot recommend it enough.
Where?
This one is on at the National Theatre. It's Come Back Home. It's where it started almost 20 years ago.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello and welcome to GB News. We are Britain's #1 news channel. I'm Nana Akua. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. Right, let's get the latest from the World Cup and a landmark win for Scotland. John McGinn scored as they beat Haiti 1-0 in the early hours of this morning. It is Scotland's first win in the World Cup for 36 years. All right, we're joined now by Chris Scudder. He's a sports broadcaster. How big is this news? How exciting, Chris?
A tough group. They've got Brazil, they've got Morocco. So Haiti, on paper, they were the smallest team. And realistically, Scotland have got to win one of these group games to get through to the knockout stages. They've never done it before. And so to win 1-0 was exactly what they wanted. It wasn't pretty, but, you know, 1-0 is just fine. And it means they're in a pretty good position. In fact, because the other two teams played each other, Morocco and Brazil, that was a 1-1 draw last night. Scotland, proudly today, are top of their group. So that's fantastic. Scott McTominay, he had a terrific game as well. But one thing I will say, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the pictures on social media, but when Flower of Scotland was played before that game in Foxborough, in Massachusetts, it was absolutely spine-tingling. I don't think I've ever seen or heard an anthem belted out with as much passion as that. And that's what it's all about. If Scotland don't win the tournament, and I'm pretty sure they won't, I think their fans will come back as the greatest of the tournament, because they were magnificent last night. And they were also singing on the banks of Loch Lomond, the tops of their voices, absolutely stunning stuff. And, you know, I think all over the place, all the watching parties everywhere, amazing, really. And the World Cup really has come to life, and the Scots are right at the heart of it.
Well, who's in their group then?
Well, they've got Brazil and they've got Morocco, and on paper, you know, you're thinking, OK, those two are going to go through, and the best third teams go through as well. Listen, we shouldn't write Scotland off in those games, but you know, on the face of it, it's going to be much tougher than it was against Haiti. But, you know, just to go through would be a massive thing for Scotland. And, you know, once you go through, there have been some surprises so far. I mean, this morning, Australia beat Turkey. No one saw that coming, really. And Qatar got a draw with Switzerland. So it's turning into one of those unpredictable World Cups. And, you know, you never know. England might even do something.
Well, who have they got? They've got Croatia, haven't they, or something, in their first match?
Croatia on Wednesday, yeah, but it's a few days away yet. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, Croatia are a little bit more aged. They've got a very experienced team, but they haven't got the legs of England, and I think England should win that. But yeah, it's a superstar.
All right, Chris Scudder, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. All right, stay tuned. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. The social media is blamed for the unrest in Belfast. I'll be speaking to former Tory MP Louise Mensch. Sorry, Louise. She'll be here. She's long been campaigning for blackouts in times of crisis. But first, let's get some weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead, it's going to be a rather cool, fresh night ahead for many. Different story in the southwest, though, quite a warm night to come. And that leads us into a dry, settled day on Monday. Very similar conditions to what we've had this afternoon, all thanks to a ridge of high pressure stretching across the country. Far fewer isobars on the chart as well, so much lighter winds for many of us. Plenty of late evening sunshine to finish off the day. Clear skies across Scotland, northern and eastern parts of England England, so turning much cooler here overnight, particularly across Scotland. Some temperatures here not pushing much below the mid to low single figures, so feeling much cooler by Monday morning. But it's a very different story across southern parts of Wales, southwest England. A warm night to come, temperatures not dropping much past the mid single figures. So a warm start here to start off the day, but actually plenty of bright, if not sunny spells. We do have this stretch of cloud across parts of Wales, central and southeast England. This could produce some showers. We may even hear the odd rumble of thunder. Quite a fine start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, and also across Scotland. But like I say, quite a chilly start. But actually through Monday, many of us will see another dry, settled day with some sunny spells. We do just have to keep an eye on these showers as they drift their way northeastwards. Once again, the odd spark of lightning associated with those. And then later into the day across the northwest, clouding over here. Once again, the odd shower or two expected. But where we see the brighter weather in the light winds, once again, it will be feeling warm. Highs reaching into the mid-single figures across much of England and Wales. They're a little bit fresher across some northeastern coasts and eastern areas of Scotland. Now, through the course of the night, this band of thicker cloud will start to produce some more outbreaks of rain as it drifts its way northeastwards, a few showers starting to push into the west. And this is a very similar pattern to what we'll see next week, some showers and cloud at times, but actually temperatures increasing day by day, turning rather warm by the end of the week.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab a chance to live the summer of your dreams.
With a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in tax-free cash to be won.
Someone really has to win it, and it could be you.
For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online, and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. It is 5 o'clock, and for the next hour, Me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next hour, broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly and political commentator Jonathan Less. So earlier in my nickel,
we've got policy making it clear that anti-white racism is acceptable.
As Reform UK's Suella Braverman says, Britain is a two-tier state against white people. I investigated the party's latest policy to put migrants to the back of the housing queue. If you missed it, you can catch it on gbnews.com or check out our YouTube channel. Then, in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, should foreign nationals be entitled to council housing? That is on the poll. Head to the website, cast your vote. That poll will close very shortly. And dramatic footage as British forces seize a Russian Shadow Fleet tanker in the English Channel for the first time. But is the brave work of the Royal Marines in spite of being underfunded? Shadow Defence Secretary James Cartledge thinks so.
Everyone knows that 0.08% is nothing like enough, and we know that John Healey himself, the previous Defence Secretary, thought that that's why he resigned. The threat is much greater, so we need to increase defence spending to 3%, and we think a big part of that has got to come from cutting welfare.
Well, Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy promised Labour will keep the country safe.
We've overseen the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. And when we first came into government, within weeks, we'd commissioned a strategic defence review.
And in the interview, I'll be speaking to outspoken former Tory MP turned author Louise Mensch. As the internet is being blamed for riots in Belfast, Louise has long campaigned for social media blackouts in times of crisis. And in the next Great British Debate, I'm asking, is Donald Trump too old to be president? He turns 80 today. Happy birthday to him. And apparently he'll be celebrating with some cage fighting. We'll be live from Washington, D.C. soon. But before we get started, the latest news with Bethany Elsey.
Hello, your top stories from the GB newsroom at 2 minutes past 5. British armed forces have intercepted and seized a Russian oil tanker in the English Channel. Sir Keir Starmer confirmed Royal Marine commandos and specially trained officers boarded the vessel, supported by the RAF, in the early hours of this morning. It's understood there were 25 crew members on board, and they're now being investigated by the National Crime Agency, while the vessel is being held off the south coast of England. Russia has been operating a shadow fleet of tankers to evade international sanctions imposed on its oil exports since its war with Ukraine began. Lieutenant Colonel Tom Quinn says they won't allow that to happen.
Evading sanctions to fund an illegal war in Ukraine will be countered with decisive action, and that's what we've done on this occasion. We didn't meet any resistance from the crew. Indeed, they were really compliant and supportive of our actions and what we needed to get done once we took control of the vessel.
The new Defence Secretary says he's determined to get the armed forces the funding they need after his predecessor quit over the government's military spending plans. In his first interview since his promotion, Dan Jarvis told The Telegraph his party must meet the moment amid increasing global threats. Meanwhile, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch is urging Labour to cut welfare spending in order to increase defence investment. The Shadow Defence Secretary James Cartledge spoke to GB News this morning.
One knows that 0.08% is nothing like enough, and we know that John Healey himself, the previous Defence Secretary, thought that that's why he resigned. The threat is much greater, so we need to increase defence spending to 3%, and we think a big part of that has got to come from cutting welfare.
15 activists have been arrested at a pro-Palestine rally outside a synagogue in North London. Edgware United Synagogue have organised a counter-protest against what they've described as harassment and bullying against the Jewish community. Footage on social media shows police detaining protesters after clashes broke out. Nigel Farage has pledged to evict foreign nationals from council houses. Under the Reform leader's plans, migrants living in social housing would be given 3 months to find private accommodation or face being deported. Instead, veterans and long-term local residents will be given priority, along with domestic abuse survivors. And Lewis Hamilton has won the Barcelona-Catalunya Grand Prix, marking his 106th victory. It's the British driver's first win with Ferrari and his first Grand Prix title in 2 years. He last won in Belgium in 2024. The 41-year-old is Formula One's oldest winner since Australian Jack Brabham. He was 43 when he won in South Africa in 1970. You're up to date for now. I'll be back with more in half an hour.
Thank you, Bethany. It is just coming up to 6 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News, Britain's #1 news channel. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, Nigel Farage is proposing a major shake-up of social housing rules, saying that British veterans and local residents should be moved to the front of the queue. Then in the interviews, as social media is blamed for unrest in Belfast, I'll speak to former Tory MP Louise Mensch, who has long been campaigning for blackouts in times of crisis. Then in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, is Donald Trump too old to be president? He turns 80 today and will apparently celebrate with some cage fighting. No, he won't be fighting, no. All right, that's coming up. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say, or why not scan that QR code that you see on your screens. So Nigel Farage has announced that he would evict foreign nationals from council housing. Under the Reform UK leader's plans, migrants would be given 3 months to find private accommodation or face being deported afterwards. Instead, veterans and long-term local residents will be given priority along with domestic abuse survivors and care leavers. Well, I'm joined by Jex Parkin, who is the leader of the Reform UK group on Birmingham City Council. Jex, I don't have a problem with this idea. What do you make of that? Is this a problem in your view?
I think this is a proposal which is absolutely welcomed by myself and many people here in Birmingham. And in fact, here in Birmingham, and especially the ward that I'm very privileged to represent of King's Standing, there are loads of people, so many people who have been on the waiting list for social housing for a long time. They may be veterans or have people in their family that are veterans or even domestic abuse survivors. And they are so far down on the list that it must be incredibly frustrating for them. And quite frankly, I think that's completely unfair. So this policy announcement is absolutely welcome.
Why do you think some people might object to it? Because I've heard people kind of alluding to trying to link it with being white and things like that, which this policy is not about that.
Well, of course, and this is the problem in looking after British people first. For so long has been looked at increasingly as a problem. And I think that's so indicative of where we are as a society, how far we've fallen over the past decades under successive governments, whether it be Labour or indeed the Tories. But actually, there is nothing wrong as a country with putting your people first, British people first, particularly veterans, particularly domestic abuse survivors. No other country would make any kind of apology for that. So why on earth should we?
Yeah, well, it does seem a bit preposterous that you'd say, oh, well, yeah, no, we'll pay for anyone, doesn't matter. I don't think so. I think it's actually disrespectful to the taxpayer who's forking out to hopefully help with the people of this country who are British citizens. There's nothing wrong with expecting British citizens to come first. But what would you say to the argument that some are making, and we won't talk about the by-election, but some are saying that it's because of he's doing it now to coincide with the timing?
I don't think that's correct at all. I think what you'll see if you look at our track record in local government and indeed in national politics, Reform UK and Nigel Farage for so many years have consistently stuck up for British people. This is not a new development. This is something which we've been doing for quite some time. And this latest policy announcement clearly is just a continuation of that.
And what would your response to people who feel that actually, although it sounds like it's geared towards protecting all British citizens, that some might see it as racist?
Again, I think that's a completely ludicrous proposition. No other country would make any kind of apology for looking after their own people, their own British veterans first. And again, why should we? You know, there is nothing racist about saying that British veterans ex-armed forces, British domestic abuse survivors should actually be given priority. And again, if you're a foreign national, we're not saying we're going to immediately chuck you out. You'll have 3 months, a grace period of 3 months where you can seek private accommodation. I think that's more than reasonable, and it's absolutely fair.
Well, Jonathan Less, who was on the panel and will be back later, referred to it as inhumane.
I just think that's completely preposterous. Again, there is no other nation on this planet which would make any kind of apology for announcing a policy like this. And again, it's taken so long for any party to take real notice of this issue. And the fact that Reform UK are prepared to do so, I think, is actually a great sign. And there may be people who want to detract from this or throw, slanderous comments at it, but it's complete nonsense. And look at where Reform UK are. We have so much support in this country. And it's not because people think these kinds of things are unreasonable. It's because actually the average British person completely welcomes this. And that's why they're backing Reform UK.
All right, well, thank you for your thoughts, although others may call it inhumane. Some have called it racist, and others would feel that it's sort of an anti-immigration kind of policy. Thank you very much for your thoughts. That is Jex Parkin. He is the leader of Reform UK group on Birmingham City Council. All right, well, on Nigel Farage's deportation plans, a government spokesperson said illegal migrants, asylum seekers and migrants on student work or visas are not eligible for social housing, and nearly 9 in 10 social homes go to UK nationals, and most councils have tough local connection rules which ensure that housing goes to people who need it most. Right, well, 11 minutes after 5 o'clock, and Donald Trump turns 80 today. He's celebrating in a way probably only Donald Trump could. The White House is set to host UFC Freedom 250 on the South Lawn. Organisers have given away 85,000 tickets to fans who want to watch the match on massive screens at Ellipse Park. Well, I'm joined now by GB News presenter Ben Leo from Boston. Ben Leo, tell us more about this.
Hello, Nana. Good morning from a very sunny Boston. I'm actually in front of, apparently, they're calling it the world's largest soccer ball, football to you and I. Boston is host to Scotland, of course, last night, their big win over Haiti. We'll talk about that in just a second. But today, of course, is President Trump's 80th birthday. Whether you like the man or not politically, he's had a hell of a career, hasn't he? He started out, reportedly, if you believe the rumours, with a $1 million loan from his father. Back in the day, he turned it into billions. A few bankruptcies on the way, strategic, you could argue. He then became a reality TV star with The Apprentice. And then, if that wasn't enough for one person's lifetime achievements, he went on to win 2 separate terms at the White House. And of course, he is president still now. He is 80 years old. He's getting on a bit. He still seems, as far as I can tell, in pretty decent nick, despite some criticism that he maybe falls asleep or likes to rest his eyes during those long cabinet meetings or Oval Office events. His medical report came back a few weeks ago. Not sure if you remember, Nana, when I spoke to you last. The doctor said that he's in great cardio shape. His heart's fine. He's in good nick for an 80-year-old. So I guess that's good if you're an American citizen. But tonight, for his big birthday, is UFC Freedom 250. Some controversy because people say that you don't want a mixed martial arts event, a massive scrap on the South Lawn of the White House. People arguing that maybe it's not becoming of the history and the tradition of the White House. But it's happening. It's kicking off 11 p.m. tonight, a massive fight card. MMA fighters going to be scrapping it out in the back garden of the White House. And it's going to be a really historic event. 4,000 fans inside the stadium, which has been erected on the South Lawn. And there's a bigger fan zone just down the road as well, where around 10 to 15,000 fans can watch the fight as well. Alongside tonight, he'll be having a private dinner, the president, with his family, Melania, his children, at the White House. But in honour of tonight, the UFC event, I thought, what better way to pay tribute to that historic event by doing what any responsible reporter would do, which is go down to a local MMA gym, a mixed martial arts gym in Washington, D.C., and to the delight probably of many people watching this, get slapped around myself. This is what happened.
Yes, better to be accurate. Okay, again. Now you can go ahead and let the young people send it. That's right. Send it. Yeah, again. Try to hold me down. You can start. Yeah, okay, ready? Go. You go down. So basically, you're like, I will get on top, and then I will hold you down. So now you try to get out. That's good. That's good. It was the shoulder. Yeah, who got the shoulder in there?
So that was a bit of fun. Got battered, got a nice crack to my ribs. The full version is on GB News social media, YouTube, if you want to go and check that out. But elsewhere, the reason we're here in Boston on the east coast of America, Nana, is because, of course, last night Scotland made their big World Cup comeback since 1998. It's been a long time coming for the Scots, the Tartan Army. They're here in force in Boston. Tens of thousands of fans in the stadium, many, many more on the streets of Boston last night. And what a comeback it was, 1-0 against Haiti. And because in their group, Group C, Brazil, the favourites, earlier drew with Morocco, it means Scotland are now top of the group. All they need, arguably, is a point against Morocco next Friday in order to progress to the knockout rounds, and that would be a massive achievement for the Scots. I managed to bump into one Scotland fan last night who was lucky enough to dig deep into the family coffers to afford a ticket in the stadium last night, and this is his reaction after that big win. We've got one delighted Scotland fan with me now. How was it, 1-0? How are you feeling?
It was absolutely superb. John McGinn is going to win the Ballon d'Or. Scotland are going to win the World Cup. And we're going to drink your eels.
And you were in the stadium?
I was there, yes, I was.
What was it like, the atmosphere, when McGinn scored that opening goal?
Oh, here we go. It was absolutely, it was superb. One of, if not the best I was in. It was, words can't describe it.
And how much did you pay to come here? Because there's lots of talk about it being the most expensive World Cup ever. Did that come into your mind at all?
Yeah, did I? Because the Americans charge us £540 a ticket. Like, come on.
Is that what you paid, $540?
$540, aye. Don't tell my mum that.
That's hefty, but it's got. Is it worth it after tonight?
Oh yeah, of course it was, aye. We're top of the group. Brazil who?
And you've got Morocco next Friday. That could be your route into the next round.
Yeah, 1 point does it. Really, 1 point does it. It's perfect, and we will get it. Come on, Scotland.
And just very quickly, the celebrations behind us.
Yeah.
Late into the night. How long are you staying out?
As long as they'll have us.
Well, it's good to see you and your UFC fighting or whatever. You gave him hell, hardly. So, Ben, tonight then, you're going to be roving, you're reporting. Will Kingston will be presenting The Late Show Live. What will you be up to? Where are you going? What is happening?
So we're going to hang around Boston just for today. We're going to get the aftermath of all the Scotland fans who, let me tell you, my voice is a little bit hoarse this morning, not because I've been out boozing with the Scotland fans all night. I must have picked up a bug on the plane or something, but that's my excuse. We're going to be checking out the Scotland fans, the aftermath. We're heading to Dallas tomorrow for England's big World Cup opener. They play Croatia on Wednesday. And if you tune into The Late Show Live tonight, we'll have more extensive coverage of President Trump's birthday and indeed the big event on the South Lawn of the White House, the big UFC event, which will be a massive spectacle. So lots to look forward to over the next coming days and weeks, Nana, kicking off tonight with UFC. Check out The Late Show Live tonight, midnight on GB News.
Absolutely, Ben Leo. Looking forward to it. Thank you very much. That is Ben Leo in Boston. Right, just coming up to 18 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. On the way next, my interview as social media is blamed for unrest in Belfast. I'll be speaking to former Tory MP Louise Mensch, who has long been campaigning for the blackouts in times of crisis.
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. If you just tuned in, welcome. You have come at a good time, but remember we do start at 3, so if you wouldn't mind next time maybe coming then instead of now. But you have come at a good time because it is time for this week's interview. And, of course, the debate over social media and public safety is back on the spotlight after the recent violence in Belfast. Technology Secretary Liz Kendall has vowed to strengthen the Online Safety Act, granting Ofcom enhanced powers to throttle social media users during periods of heightened tension. But should online platforms face tougher penalties when posts fuel unrest, or does that risk undermining free speech? Well, my guest, former Tory MP and author Louise Mensch, previously called for social media blackouts in times of crisis. Does she think the same today? Louise joins me in the studio. What do you think, Louise?
Well, Nana, I'm going to have to eat an enormous helping of humble pie and crow here, because, no, I do not think that we should be doing them. Back when I said maybe we should shut down social media during riots, social media was pretty new. Twitter had only been invented about a year and a half prior. People didn't really understand social media. And my local police force, where I was an MP, was being overwhelmed with 999 calls for things that weren't actually happening at all. In this case, it wasn't like spreading real riots. It was like reporting fake riots, and the police were complaining bitterly to me about it. David Cameron, then Prime Minister, was thinking about going to the security services to shut down social media. He was tossing this idea around. And David Lammy, now the Justice Secretary, was also in favour of it because there'd been riots in Brixton, so it was bipartisan. But I agree, you know, free speech is more important, and we've already got adequate laws. You're not allowed to incite violence. I don't think Liz Kendall should be floating new laws. Why don't you just enforce the laws that we've actually got instead of wasting everybody's time?
I sometimes feel the politicians just want to say something. They just want to say something, then they want to find a scapegoat like they did with, what's her name, Lucy Connolly. I mean, they put her in jail. Why? OK, she said some rancid things. Nobody would agree with the things she said. She didn't even agree with them. She deleted them. I think should be end of story. If you're going to punish her, maybe fine her. But even that is a waste of time. There are lots of other things and other horrible words on social media. And actually, if you really wanted to have a go, you could be fining the people who are enabling the media, so the actual owners of X and those things. But otherwise, shutting it down, it's just utter lunacy. Why?
Well, I really think that actually the Lucy Connolly case is something that has got people really angry, and even today that anger still lingers, that she was put in jail. Now, it's true, she pled guilty, which she should not have done. She pled guilty, so there's no question about it, because she said she was guilty. But this is a post that was up for, like, just a few minutes, reached just a handful of people and got taken down. What a waste of everybody's time, and unjustly putting her in jail for a thing that she immediately regretted and deleted just is not right. And I think if we're looking at maybe calming down riots and so forth, if you're inciting riots and you're using social media to stir it up, you're already committing an offence already. We do not need to have talking shop politicians go back to Westminster with the country in the state it is now, waste everybody's time doing new laws, just say, have you inciting violence on social media? I'm going to prosecute you then.
Well, it's not really going to be that difficult to find the people, seeing as it's from their account, or X should have to expose who those people are, I guess. I don't know whether I agree with that too, but I don't see what the problem would be. But I also feel like, you know, actually the people perpetrating the violence, I'd be more interested in catching them. I'd be more interested in catching the person who's just set fire to the house than the person who suggested that you set fire to the house. People suggest lots of things. I don't necessarily listen to all those suggestions. I almost think the politicians are almost insulting my intelligence by thinking that a post on social media is going to make me violent.
Yeah. I actually want to see, if there are going to be prosecutions, I would like to see some actual concrete evidence of inciting violence. Like, turn up at this corner with a weapon, you know, bring a Molotov cocktail. If that's in your DMs, yeah, you should be prosecuted. If you're just saying, this is outrageous, we should protest, there's nothing wrong with that, because protesting is a key and fundamental right that we all have in this country, and that is fine. You've got to be careful to, you know, separate out actual incitement to violence with speech you don't like. Speech you don't like isn't a crime.
Or doesn't agree with your values. That's why it's worrying when the government start talking about, oh, we'll shut it down if, or we'll have more protection over it, because it's only because they don't like what they're hearing, even if it's just a political view that doesn't work with theirs. What do you make of the ban for social media for those 16 and under?
This I'm very much in favour of. I had a big fight with my dear friend Jacob Rees-Mogg over this, because he is not in favour of it. But actually, I think we've got to pivot when new evidence turns up. I'm the kind of person that doesn't get wedded to an idea. If it's disproven, I'll change my mind in a heartbeat. I think now there is sufficient evidence. Young brains are different than adult brains. They react differently to all kinds of things, including antidepressants. There's a lot of evidence that it is really, really harmful. And children have no right to anything. You know, partly we should say they should do it. Children have no right to anything, none at all. Ungrateful, a lot of them. You know, I think really we are trying to give kids these rights that they shouldn't have, and say that you should be on social media all the time doom scrolling. But at the same time that Labour wants apparently to ban social media for these kids, they want to give them the vote.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it?
How does that work?
Well, obviously it works because they think that people are more likely to be left-wing when they're early teens, which is, you know, it's utter lunacy. It doesn't make any sense. But I'm not sure I agree with you on that. I don't believe that social media should be banned for under 16s. It's quite simple, really. It's like my youngest brother, he's lovely. He's got a couple of children. They don't eat sugar. They're not allowed to eat sugar. They don't eat sugar at all. I'm very impressed they don't eat sugar. I wish I didn't eat sugar. I love sugar. Now, what do you think was going to happen when they get a taste of sugar? Do you think they're going to go, this is horrible, or do you think they're going to go, sugar, sugar, sugar? I think that's more likely to happen. And that's why I think it is better with the... It's something that you're going to grow up with and live with now. We can't put the genie back in the bottle. So isn't it better that you are informed and the parameters are set and we grow with it, understanding how to control it as we are young adults growing into adulthood? Wouldn't that be wiser than taking it away completely?
Well, there are some halfway houses that we could have as a compromise. For example, wouldn't it be great if we just got lockers at schools and said it is not legal to have social media for kids during lesson time, even if you take it out at lunchtime? That would stop a lot of the cyberbullying. But really, we don't have to do this ourselves untested. Australia has already passed this law, and it has already banned social media.
And it didn't work.
And is it working? They're getting behind it on VPNs. I would like to see a couple of years, and see what the outcome there has been. For example, are there fewer teen suicides? Is it really a dramatic and noticeable difference? Because if it makes no difference, then there's no point in doing this. But yeah, I don't believe that kids should vote at 16. I don't believe they should drink at 16. I don't believe they should be able to get married at 16, with or without a parent's help. And I'd be all in favour of banning it, although I know this is a minority view, perhaps because I myself am terminally online and I'm so addicted to it. You know, I don't want my kids becoming as addicted as I am to Twitter.
It's like anything, though. Once it becomes a normal part of everyday life, and then people they're into it, and then after a while people start to move away from things. Do you know what I mean? So if you think of, say for example, in France, where people drink quite normally as part of, you don't see so much alcoholism like in this country. Suddenly you can drink at a certain age, suddenly, there's loads of people, and people seem to be binging it and everything, whereas after a while, it just becomes part of life, and you learn to manage it. Now, I think it's awful that people have committed, being killed by suicide, because potentially they've been influenced by social media. But I would put it to you that some people have a propensity to take in certain amounts of information, be it through social media or something else, and then respond to it. And those people, I don't think social media... It would be, if it wasn't social media, it might be another thing.
Yeah.
It would be the influence.
Yes. Well, again, you know, we're talking about if you were to limit, for example, phones in schools, that would cut down a lot of the teen cyberbullying. But you're right, it wouldn't get rid of it.
No.
You know, people that really want to hurt somebody else, that want to hurt their feelings, they're going to find a way to do it. And people that are really depressed are probably going to continue to be depressed. But I do believe it's an exacerbating factor. And I think the overall argument for free speech, above all other things, doesn't apply to minors, because I don't think kids and adults are the same or should have the same rights.
Well, how about we don't buy them the phones? How about we don't buy... It's all very well blaming the government, blaming Elon Musk, blaming all these people. What about the parents? Don't buy the phone. They don't have a phone. Don't give them a smartphone. Maybe you don't give them smartphones at that age. Maybe up to 16 they have the block phone where they can communicate, which is what a phone is meant to be.
Yeah.
And then after that they can then do the other bits. But again, it's like the sugar. Suddenly you get the thing, then you've got the high, and then you don't understand how to use it. And I think that would prove even worse.
Might do. I'd like to see some stats on average usage by teens, because for it to get worse, it has to already not be as bad as it can be. And this is just anecdotal. I've got 3 kids and none of them are... Well, actually, my youngest is still a teenager. But, you know, I've seen how they were just absolutely glued to these phones, and I would take them away, and then there would be an awful lot of pushback. So should the parents have total control? Yes, they should. But... it just goes back to the age factor. I would not ban social media for adults. It's entirely up to us what we do with our leisure time. I think if kids are doing something damaging, we should stop it. And personally, I would be in favour of this, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, I don't want to lose the power of give me your smartphone. I'll do anything.
That's the worst
punishment. Anything to do anything. It's great. And then she's really nice to me, and I'm thinking, oh, she's been really nice. I've forgotten that I've taken a phone. That's why she's being nice. Louise Mensch, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. That is former Conservative MP and author Louise Mensch. Right, 32 minutes after 5 o'clock. Of course, if you've been affected by anything you've heard, Samaritans are here day or night, 365 days a year. You can call them for free on 116123. That's 116123. Or email them at Joe, that's J-O, @samaritans.org, or visit the website samaritans.org or find your nearest branch. All right, well, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. Still to come in the Great British Debate. I'm asking, is Donald Trump too old to be president? But first, your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Headlines from the GB newsroom. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has praised Sir Keir Starmer after UK armed forces intercepted a Russian Shadow Fleet oil tanker in the English Channel. The new Defence Secretary says he's determined to get the armed forces the funding they need after his predecessor quit over the government's military spending plans. Meanwhile, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch is calling on the Prime Minister to cut welfare spending and redirect the savings to defence. 15 people have been arrested in North London after a pro-Palestine rally took place outside a synagogue in Edgware. And Lewis Hamilton has won the Barcelona-Catalunya Grand Prix, his first win with Ferrari and his first Grand Prix title in 2 years. Those are your headlines for now. More for you at 6 o'clock.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead, it's going to be a rather cool, fresh night ahead for many. Different story in the southwest, though, quite a warm night to come. And that leads us into a dry, settled day on Monday. Very similar conditions to what we've had this afternoon, all thanks to a ridge of high pressure stretching across the country. Far fewer isobars on the chart as well, so much lighter winds for many of us. Plenty of late evening sunshine to finish off the day. Clear skies across Scotland, northern and eastern parts of England, so turning much cooler here overnight, particularly across Scotland. Some temperatures here not pushing much below the mid to low single figures, so feeling much cooler by Monday morning. But it's a very different story across southern parts of Wales, southwest England. A warm night to come, temperatures not dropping much past the mid single figures. So a warm start here to start off the day, but actually plenty of bright, if not sunny spells. We do have this stretch of cloud across parts of Wales, central and southeast England. This could produce some showers. We may even hear the odd rumble of thunder. Quite a fine start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, and also across Scotland. But like I say, quite a chilly start. But actually through Monday, many of us will see another dry, settled day with some sunny spells. We do just have to keep an eye on these showers as they drift their way northeastwards. Once again, the odd spark of lightning associated with those. And then later into the day across the northwest, clouding over here. Once again, the odd shower or two expected. But where we see the brighter weather in the light winds, once again, it will be feeling warm. Highs reaching into the mid-single figures across much of England and Wales, though a little bit fresher across some northeastern coasts and eastern areas of Scotland. Now, through the course of the night, this band of thicker cloud will start to produce some more outbreaks of rain as it drifts its way northeastwards, a few showers starting to push into the west. And this is a very similar pattern to what we'll see next week, some showers and cloud at times, but actually temperatures increasing day by day, turning rather warm by the end of the week.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late-night TV shows. We're giving you a front-row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, 36 minutes after 5 o'clock. If you just tuned in, welcome on board. This is GB News. We are Britain's #1 news channel. I'm Nana Akua. And it's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is Donald Trump too old to be president? Today, he turned 80, making him one of the oldest people ever to serve as president of the United States. But might his age actually affect his judgment? Is he past it, basically? So in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is Donald Trump too old to be president? Well, joining me now, broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly and political commentator Jonathan Liss. Jonathan Liss, we shall start with you.
No, Nana, he's not too old to be president. He's too mad, too unstable, too stupid, too unfit in every single way.
What about Joe Biden? What about Joe Biden?
Joe Biden was also unfit at the end to be president.
No, at the end, he was unfit throughout, wasn't he?
No.
Are you about to tell me that Joe Biden was compos mentis? I wonder, do we have any clips
Why are we
of Joe
going for
Biden?
whataboutery anyway? We're talking about Donald Trump.
Have we
It's
got any
complete
clips of-
whataboutery. I said at the
get some
time,
of Joe Biden,
I said at
I
the
wanna talk
time of
about-
the interview, I said at the time of that debate that Joe Biden did, that clearly this man was not fit to stand
only
for
worked out
election.
then.
Clearly, this man was not fit to stand for re-election. Clearly, he was not fit to serve another 4 years in office. And at least some of us on the left have consistency because we said the same thing about Biden and we're saying the same thing about Trump.
Well, eventually...
Anyone who stands up, reads an interview that Trump gives, where the sentences look like they've been sort of randomly generated by AI, a bad AI at that, or listens to him sort of speak. You know, I've seen clips of him in recent months where literally no one would have any idea what he was talking about. He moves from one topic to the next, one sentence to the next. It's incredibly hard to follow, and it's not a party political point. It's not a point about the substance, which is bad enough. This is a man who does not have the aptitude or ability to be president. And let me just point out again, with the best will in the world, that no one has to do the cognitive test 3 times with the possibility of a 4th time if doctors are happy with the result. That's not how it works.
You said he moved from one sentence to the next, one topic to the
I think
next.
it's just
What's wrong with that? I'm sorry, but you...
I think people will be able to follow what I just said.
At some point... Well, this exactly. We have just followed you.
But people can't follow him is the point.
What I'm saying is what you've just said is perfectly normal to move from one sentence to the next, one topic to the next.
One topic.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's got completely garbled. If I was talking about Donald Trump in one sentence, and then what my mother wanted me to do as a child, and how I could be the best basketball player of all time, as Trump literally did a few weeks ago in a speech. Yes, he did.
Was it not entertaining?
No, it was entertaining. People laughed at him.
OK, so he thinks that our 80-year-old billionaire...
I'm not saying it's nothing to do with his age.
You think he's mad, and you think he's as mad as Joe Biden? I don't think so.
Look, I've seen nothing that corresponds with Jonathan's description there of Donald Trump over recent months. No, I really haven't. And an 80-year-old can just be as mentally sharp...
or as mental.
With great aptitude as someone in his 70s and 60s.
I'm not denying that. I'm saying we're talking about him.
But the question is he too old? So that's what I'm talking about. He's 80 years old, and that's the question. So that's prompted us to talk about whether 80 is too old for Donald Trump. So I don't think that he is suffering any mental decline.
No.
And yes, he may meander across various subjects. I think he personally gets a bit excitable and starts sort of randomly... Look, I wish the TV could see Jonathan's face. He's pulling at me.
Jonathan, Danny, I have a lot of time for what you say, as you know, but this is just anyone objectively looking and reading and listening to Donald Trump's statements, regardless of the substance of those statements, would say this guy clearly has certainly a malignant narcissism when he relates everything to himself.
That got to do with...
Well, it's about your fitness. I don't want someone as president who's constantly talking about himself, about inserting himself into every single situation and moving from one
first time, couldn't we? First term. You're focusing more on him and his personality.
It's got worse.
His octogenarian.
Right, but it's also he's got worse. I'm not.
I don't think he has got worse.
If you listen to, I'm not talking about his age. I never have. There are people who are 40 years old who are mentally unfit to be president. There are people who are 90 who could do a great job. It's not about his age.
Well, I've got a couple of clips of Trump on his birthday. Have a listen to this. Oh, we don't have them. Somebody said we do. And now. Oh, I can't hear what people are saying to me. I don't understand what you're saying. Sorry, do you want to repeat that in my ear?
He's got a great personality. Love or hate the guy. I really do.
Great personality.
He's the sort of guy you'd want to go and have a pint with.
No,
although he doesn't drink.
He's a malignant narcissist. Why don't I have a drink with a malignant narcissist who doesn't care about you, just wants to talk about himself all the time?
Look, I disagree with you. He's the sort of guy that I think is a fun personality. I really do. Now, you're focusing too much on his politics. I'm talking about his personality.
No, I'm not talking about his politics. It's both. It's both. This guy is...
He makes me laugh out loud.
One thing I'll give him is he can sometimes be incredibly funny.
He's funny.
He can sometimes be incredibly funny.
A minor concession, Jonathan. He could be very funny. That's why you want to go for a bevy with him.
No, but he's funny in like a wisecrack way. He's not funny. Like if you had a drink with him, he wouldn't care about you. He wouldn't ask a single question about you.
You're making such assumptions.
Anyone. He's not gonna. Oh my God! Why are we even talking about this? This is so silly. We can talk about
happy birthday, Donald.
And you know, in fact, Vladimir Putin called him to wish him happy birthday.
Yeah,
so
Putin's biggest friend.
This is the thing when you've got a leader like that who is able to transverse all these different things. So he's able to talk to Kim Jong Un. He's able to talk to Xi Jinping. He's able to talk to Vladimir Putin. He struggles to talk to Keir Starmer, but I think we all do. Really, let's be honest. He does. He
struggles to talk about anything.
No, and he's able to talk to all these different world leaders, and that is a leader, not what we've got here.
Have you seen his...
Morgan knows him well,
no.
He gives a different insight. He knows him, Jonathan.
Piers Morgan has criticised him on numerous occasions.
Yeah, but not
plenty of people know him.
Yeah, but
his niece hates him.
No,
well, I bet your niece hates you. You've got a niece that hates you.
No.
You've got anyone that hates you?
I'm sure plenty of your viewers hate me, but that's hardly the point.
So what's
they don't know me, though, do they?
Hate's a strong.
Very few people who know me hate me.
Well, you don't know Donald.
Well, this is... OK, I don't quite understand. I don't quite understand what we're doing here. I think we can be fair. I think we can be fair and reasonable. And if you were just someone who had been in a coma for 20 years, and you looked at the videos, the speeches, you read the transcripts of the interviews this guy gives, you would say this man does not have a firm grasp on reality. You see the things that he tweets. He tweets the other day. I think he put out 100 Truth Social posts between like 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. of the most
yourself.
garbled. At 4 a.m, I don't think that anyone's putting out posts on
But that's
social.
UK time, right?
No,
That's
4 a.m. is
UK
not for UK time. It's US time. It's 4 a.m. US time.
Listen,
the guy doesn't sleep and he sleeps during the day. He sleeps during the day, Nana.
Oh, so because he sleeps through the day.
Oh, he falls asleep during
so
meetings. He's called Joe Biden Sleepy Joe.
Sorry.
He's a sleepy one.
Sorry, no, but he doesn't fall asleep repeatedly in important
fell asleep during the Knicks
meetings.
game the other day.
Yeah, that's not an important meeting.
No,
That's
but it's a sign that he's not. He doesn't have mental acuity and he's struggling to stay awake during the day. This is not a guy who should be in charge of the nuclear codes. I'm sorry. It's not even a party political point because I could go on about his policies as well. It's about him as a person.
Can you stop now? I think we've all heard enough. Happy birthday, Donald.
Happy birthday, Donald.
Happy birthday, Donald Trump. I'm so glad that he's actually doing what he's doing.
I like him.
At least he's got the will to do something and protect his own nation, unlike ours,
How's he doing that?
who are talking nonsensically about welfare and spending more money on that than our defence. Absolute madness. But now stay with us because we'll do the forecast in the European destinations and then we'll have Supplement Sunday.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello there. Some showers affecting parts of Spain, otherwise lots of dry weather, lots of warm sunshine, feeling very warm in that sunshine across some areas. Now some showers could turn a bit heavy at times across parts of Spain. We'll also start to see some showers bubbling up through Monday across the Adriatic coastline. But otherwise lots of dry settled weather as high pressure continues, feeling very warm across some inland areas as well. The sunshine is set to continue into next week and temperatures turning quite hot by the end of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
You're a stripper for nearly 20 years now. Yeah. And what you do now has changed. How has it changed and why?
I think beforehand they would book you individually. There would be a lot of stripograms, and that would be bookings for like birthdays, hen parties, and ultimately you would probably be around their house or something like that, or in a small bar. What it's kind of moved into now is more shows. Dream Boys, it's really popular. It's up and down the country, and what you'll find is they'll get 20, 30 girls together and they'll go out and they'll go to the show because they've got the drag queen, they've got the dancers, they've got the stripper, they've got the whole night's entertainment.
Is that because they feel uncomfortable with the stripper, or is it a woke thing? Is it like concerned about objectifying you because they don't want to objectify themselves, so why should you be objectified?
I think it could be possibly a bit about... some of them might think if we get them around the house, there might be a person that's uncomfortable with it. Whereas if they book the show, you're free to go to the show or not.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Princess Anne and the way that she has brought up her family is really interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, you've got daughter and son who've not taken on royal titles, who've just got on with their lives.
I think now, in retrospect, we can say it was an inspired decision of the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, not to have her husband receive a Grand Peerage title, which meant, of course, that her children would just be plain Mr. and Mrs. Zara is Mrs. Tyndall, he is Mr. Phillips, and that's allowed them actually to have a much more normal life, not being in the necessary glare that attaches when you have the HRH prefix to your name and become a duke or a duchess or whatever. And yes, they have had great lives in the private sector.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Dorothea served in preparation for D-Day. And Dorothea, how does it feel being here today, joining other veterans?
We certainly felt that it had been worthwhile giving up our youth, our years as teenagers. No such things existed. You were a child until you were 14 or 16, depending on the year. And after that, okay, you're fit to be killed for the country. And it was naturally assumed that everybody would willingly do their bit for England. And they would have.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We are Britain's #1 news channel. We're 5 years old, even though they told us that we wouldn't last 6 months. So, I'm Nana Akua. Welcome. Right now, at 7 o'clock on GB News this evening, it's Free Speech Nation with Josh Howie, and he joins us now. Josh, what is coming up on your show?
We got a chock-a-block show with some pretty shocking stuff. We have Baroness Claire Fox. She is here to discuss how the government are using the Belfast riots to shut down free speech. There's also a new report about how captured children's literature is with trans ideology, and that's including libraries. And also there is a document that has been revealed that shows how captured our police forces are by Muslim extremists. And we're also going to talk about Doctor Who and how woke killed it with the YouTube sensation that is Critical Drinker. And we're going to discuss also circumcision, banning it. Ouch!
That's great, Josh Howie. Looking forward to it. That is Josh Howie, 7 o'clock, Free Speech Nation. Do not miss it. But right now it's time for Supplement Sunday, the part of the show where my panel bring up some stories that caught their eye. Joining me now, broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly and political commentator Jonathan Liss. All right, Jonathan, talk to me. What have you got?
Well, Britain's favourite artist, David Hockney, very sadly died this week, as we know. And this is a lovely little story in the Mail about how Hockney, who turned down a knighthood in 1990, was offered the chance to be buried at Westminster Abbey, but turned it down, saying his heart, soul and body would forever remain in his beloved Yorkshire.
Oh, that's so sweet, isn't it? Yorkshire. I like Yorkshire. That's one of the
It's
nicest
the source of a lot of his best paintings as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Wow. Very tragic news. But Danny Kelly, what have you got?
A dog was given 6 months to live by vets. This is in America. And every day he got a diet of ice cream. 2 years later, he is still alive. The vets are putting it down to his enthusiasm and energy when he hears the ice cream truck. You know, you're hearing a lot of ice cream trucks at this time.
It's like Pavlov's dogs, isn't it?
You're hearing a load of ice, all this sirens and all the music, yeah? And every day he listens out for it, and it's giving him a new lease of life. And he legs it to where the ice cream truck's going to pull up. The owner gives him a load of ice cream. 2 years later, I mean, it looks like a Staffordshire Bull Terrier to me, which is not my favourite breed of dog, I've got to say.
I don't really
Is he on his
like
Ozempic, though, to counterbalance the ice cream?
I don't like those dogs. But anyway, nevertheless, he is still alive 2 years later after being given a 6-month death sentence, all because of vanilla ice cream.
Oh, that's so lovely, though, isn't it? Oh, I would like a dog, but it needs to be a small dog. My friend, very good friend, best friend, actually, her parents have 2 dogs. They're the little ones, like the corgis that the Queen had. There's one brown and white one.
Don't have a Staffy, I don't like
And a
Staffies.
black and white one. And the black and white one hates me.
The black and white one hates you?
Hates me! It looks at me and it goes...
Must be... So it's a left... But it must be a lefty, Nana.
It's obviously definitely a left-wing dog. All right, well, listen, throughout the show, I have been asking, should foreign nationals be entitled to council housing according to the results?
Only 1%, come on.
No, I was expecting a clean sweep here.
I was expecting, 0% probably.
So it's quite a shocker, but 99% of you have said no, they should. I kind of agree with you. And 1% have said yes. I wonder who the 1% is. That's quite interesting, isn't it?
Picked the poll by mistake, I expect.
Possibly picked the wrong thing. I mean, do you think, Danny Kelly, briefly, what do you think? Do you think...
No, I'm with the 99%. I think we should prioritise Brits.
Yeah.
I'm with the 1%.
For you, yeah, well, the 1% is with you, that's the thing. Well, listen, lots of you have been getting in touch with your views. And somebody said to talk to you, Jonathan. He said, I know, Walter says, but Trump didn't introduce breakfast clubs. I don't know what that's about. I think we should just leave it there, because some of these comments are literally unreadable. Sadly, it's so annoying, because, I can't...
That was the UK government policy, I think. So I think it's fair to say that Trump had nothing to do with it.
Unless you're right, just announced it.
Also, I've got to say a huge thank you to my brilliant panel. Thank you so much to Danny Kelly.
Thank you, Nana.
Thank you very much. And also a big thank you to Jonathan Liss. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
And a huge thank you to you at home for your company. I look forward to seeing you on Friday, actually. I'll be doing Good Afternoon Britain at midday. Otherwise, you know the drill. Weekends, 3 o'clock, be there or be square. Thank you for your company. I'll leave you. Enjoy your week with the weather.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead, it's going to be a rather cool, fresh night ahead for many. A different story in the southwest, though, quite a warm night to come. And that leads us into a dry, settled day on Monday. Very similar conditions to what we've had this afternoon, all thanks to a ridge of high pressure stretching across the country. Far fewer isobars on the chart as well, so much lighter winds for many of us. Plenty of late evening sunshine to finish off the day. Clear skies across Scotland, northern and eastern